important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about the permanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode number 70 of the Degen Roundtable. What will Mastermind Richard Hart do next? Welcome, everybody. My name is Will Stevenson. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm an iron worker. I travel around the states building TV and radio towers, and in my free time, I like to talk cryptocurrency and self-improvement with degenerates such as these fine gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen and ducks and squirrels in the audience yourself. That's what I like to do. I'm also joined by my co-host, Mr. Zenith. For those of you guys that don't know Zenith is a budding legal analyst and something of a governmental specialist, or something, maybe not a governmental specialist, but he deals a lot with knowledge and stuff regarding the SEC, the federal funding rates, all the stuff that happens up there at the macroeconomic level and things of that nature. So he's here as our co-host today. We've also got our fantastic panel of one, Agent J. He is the Degen Roundtable's great value technical analyst. He walks us through all the charts, does all the fancy RSIs and Bollinger Bands and resistance levels and Fibonacci's, and reads the green candles and tells us what's going on with 60-day cycles. I don't know if he actually does all of those technical indicators. Those are just, I'm listing off some things that I know because those are the only words in the TA realm. But welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you all here tonight. Panel, how are you guys doing? What's new and exciting with you? I hear there's a cool thing going on today, some sort of sports ball event. I think it's like hockey or maybe like a baseball game or something. What's up? How you guys doing?
Oh, just avoiding the Super Bowl like the rest of us here and everybody at home watching. All of you are legends because we just don't care either about sports ball or, in my particular case, I don't care about the Super Bowl this year because it's the Eagles and the Chiefs, and I'm tired of seeing Taylor Swift shoved down my throat. So there you go.
Oh shit! Did Taylor Swift try out for the Eagles? Is she on the Eagles team now? Is she she's their goalie or something? They
love putting the camera on her like anytime there's a break in the action, and I'm like, great, we got it. Like, thank you, understood.
Hey, do you know why they put the camera on her, Zenith? Right? The same reason that we do this show, the same reason we buy cryptocurrency, the same reason we go to work, because it makes fucking money. They're going to do the thing that makes fucking money, bro. So shout out to all my Swiftie fans out there. For those of you guys watching, we love Taylor Swift just as much as any other Eagles fans do. So good to see you all out there on our sports ball teams tonight. Agent J, what's up, broski? What are you doing? Zenith is so pissed.
I am doing wonderful.
Indifferent, Will. Indifferent. Actually, exasperated, actually. How about that?
I was about to
trying to find a good word.
Sound indifferent.
I'm not upset about it. I'm just tired. I was hoping for more, but I'm just let down.
I feel you, bro. It's been like one of those weeks. I've had to deal with some issues, and I felt tired and exasperated rather than angry about things as well. So it's like that is totally relatable, broski. Sorry, Agent J. I think we cut you off there. What's new and exciting with you, bro?
No, others, gang. I have no issue with taking over the conversation and talking everybody's ear off. So when other people have more things to say than I do, it's a welcome break, I guess, for everybody. But it's been a fantastic week, great weekend so far. I don't care much for football either. The only sport that I ever cared about is basketball and baseball to an extent because my favorite author loves baseball. It is his favorite sport, and he usually tells stories through baseball, and so that's really the only appreciation that I have for baseball. The only news that I really cared about over the past few weeks is For those of you who follow basketball, last weekend we got the news that apparently there was a big trade that went down with the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers. And when that news came, we were like, whoa, that seems fake. Fake news. We're going to ignore it. But then we got confirmation over the weekend that, yes, Anthony Davis from the Lakers was indeed traded over for Luka. And that was like the biggest freaking news probably going to be of the entire year, because anybody who watches Luka could tell you that he was kind of like the flag bearer. I mean, you can't exactly compare him to Dirk, but anybody who watches Luka play could see that why a lot of people like comparing him to Dirk Nowitzki. And he was kind of like the flag bearer to carry the Mavericks onto like the next 10 or so years of basketball. And then out of nowhere, he gets traded for Anthony Davis. And even he says he doesn't know why he was traded. So that was kind of like a big thing that happened in the NBA. But, that's neither here nor there. In terms of crypto, the weekend was great. Friday, I was like, guys, I know nobody wants to hear it, but I am short-term bearish. I am short-term bearish still on Bitcoin. And the multiple 886 targets were hit. So I was like, we're probably going to sweep the lows. So probably set your orders. And lo and behold, we swept the local low just like literally 2 or 3 hours ago. So I had a few orders hit on Coinbase. So I'm pretty happy because I just got more. I just got more crypto. But other than that, same shit, different day, man.
I like it, bro. I like it. This is very good. Before we hop on over to the chat shoutouts, I actually have a question for you guys, and I'm gonna answer it myself first because it's fun. But do you guys have some sort of like obsolete or unknown sport that you're super duper fond of? Like, is there some sort of niche hole in the wall thing that you really, really like? Because I've got 2 of them myself personally. I'm a big fan of watching HEMA, historical European martial arts. So like, where it's basically like you put on fucking armor and you go and whack people with real fucking swords that are dulled on the edges and like the tips are blunted and stuff. So I like HEMA stuff. And I also like this thing that I just recently found out about called Jugger. So shout out to all my Australian and German gentlemen out there who have ever played Jugger. I know it's real big in Brazil and Spain as well, but Jugger is kind of like the same thing, but with like foam pool noodles, and also like they combine it with football. So they're like people like swinging around a ball in a chain, like trying to like fucking hit people. There's dudes running around with swords and shields. There's a guy that like is called the Quick. They run around and grab the ball. It's based off of a movie called Salute the Jugger. It was made in like the 80s or something, but super cool, fun sports. Those are my 2 things. And I also did pole vaulting when I was in high school. Do you guys have any sort of niche sports that you're fans of other than like the standard ones?
It's
Also,
funny
this goes to the folks at home as well. If throw in some niche comments in the chats if you guys got a fun sport that you're a fan of or you enjoy.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually I did pole vaulting in high school, and that's actually what got me recruited for college.
No kidding.
I was doing that in decathlon because I started out doing cross country, and then I was like, wow, distance sucks. So then I tried every event under the sun, ended up at pole vaulting where I run 50 feet at a time and get 5 minutes of break in between. I was like, this is the chosen event right here. And then during college, they were like, hey, we need decathletes. You know how to do stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah. You're like, great, you're in. I'm like, oh God. But yeah. I don't really watch track anymore, to be honest, but it's not really a huge interesting thing. I think, what is it, like Mondo Duplantis is right now the world record holder, and he just keeps breaking his own world records. So it's like, yeah, he's the guy right now. That is the main character when it comes to the pole vaulting world. Outside of that, though, I got 2 things as well. Number 1 is I will always watch the Winter X Games. I love the Winter X Games. And then outside of that, I have been watching a lot of hockey this year, actually. I just started like randomly following some YouTubers that were like doing weekly breakdowns of everything happening in the NHL for over the week, and then kind of like breaking down the narratives and everything going on and all the drama. I just thought it was a lot of fun. So I just been watching a lot of that. And I lived in Washington for a bit, so the team that I'm the local supporter of is the Kraken, even though they suck right now, so that's neither here nor there. But they did beat up on the worst team in the league, the San Jose Sharks, the other week. I think they had like a 6-1 win, so it was like, oh, feels good to just watch the home team get some goals every now and then. But outside of that, yeah, I like Capitals. I love watching Alexander Ovechkin chasing the Wayne Gretzky goal record. That's fun to watch right now. And then outside of that, we also had UFC 312 this weekend, yesterday. And we had Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, the rematch. And then we also had Zhang Weiliang versus Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez was like this big mega killer, like undefeated, just absolutely just crushing people. And then Weili Zhang just put on a phenomenal performance and let everyone know why she's honestly kind of one of the up on the Mount Rushmore for women's UFC. She's just absolute stud. And then the DDP Sean Strickland fight, it was all right. They're interesting characters. DDP is just a super awkward guy to watch him fight. He just has like such an unorthodox style. And I was the way that my buddy Taylor talks about it, he's like, yeah, man, he just gets in there and just out chads people. Like he just is like, I'm a big dude, barely know how to wrestle. I'm just gonna like throw punches at you and then try to grab you, and then we're just gonna go to the ground eventually. And that's the game plan. It's like, okay, sure. We'll see how long it keeps working out for you. Hint, it worked out all the way to the belt. So yeah, gosh. So
he took out Strickland then?
Yeah, so he didn't like finish him, but it was a 5-round decision, similar to the last time they fought. But he was on an absolute tear before this. He beat Israel Adesanya, actually submitted Izzy. I think that was the first time Israel was submitted. And then he also submitted Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whitaker. And both these, like, Bobby Knuckles is absolute Chad. And then to see Bobby Knuckles get bullied in the cage is just like unheard of, because Bobby's a big dude, but DDP is just somehow even bigger. So he's had a lot of fun fights. And then outside of that, I randomly was at the brewery this weekend and I saw the TGL, which is like the Top Golf League or something. It's a golf simulator league that they run, and there's at an arena. They have literally like 100-foot by 100-foot golf simulator screen that you hit into for the tee shots. And then they have a actual green that is on a giant turntable, and there's hydraulics under the green, so they can rotate it any which way, change the shape of the green. And they also have an indicator, so you tee off on the simulator and then it'll give you like a laser pointer to like go put your ball over here and finish out the hole here. And it's inside of an arena, so it's like a big fan experience. It's pretty cool. I was watching it, I was like, dang, this is actually pretty killer.
That's awesome. That's fucking cool. Man, there's some things I want to touch on in there, but Agent J, do you have any sports predilections that you like? Any odd or niche or unusual or some sort of sports things? And again, for the folks at home, audience, same question to you guys. Do you guys have any sort of crazy fun sports that you used to do, or things that you like watching, or things you don't think anyone's ever heard of before? But Agent J, while you wait for them, what do you got?
As far as sports is concerned, the only thing that ever came close to that came close to the context of your question was this thing in that originated in the Japan. It's called Ninja Warrior. But before it died out, before it died out, the US actually picked it up. So American Ninja Warrior is actually it's like very much thriving. I think they certainly scaled the difficulty, because the stuff that I see on American Ninja Warrior now definitely does not compare to the difficulty of the original Ninja Warrior. And I already thought that was pretty freaking difficult, especially when you got onto the later stages. Because it was like so don't quote me on this, but I seem to remember the original Ninja Warrior, they did all of the events in one day, right? So it was very rare for more than like a half a dozen contestants to ever make it to like the final stage. And even the ones that didn't make it to the final stage, by the time they got there, they were so exhausted that like winning the competition was close to impossible. I think in the I'm not sure if the Japanese version is still on, but I think in the history of the show, at least up until the point where I stopped watching it, there had only been like 3 or 4 champions, and only 1 or 2 was actually able to repeat their performance. Right, I believe the most notable gentleman was by the name of Makoto Nagano, and he became super well known because he was able to complete Ninja Warrior as it became more difficult. Right, all of the other champions, they were like one and done after they won like their first iteration of Ninja Warrior. They couldn't repeat it. Right, only Nagano and I think one other gentleman was able to repeat their performance as the course got harder. Right, because every single time somebody completed it, it just got that much harder. And so that's really the only thing that I could think of that came close. And there was another thing called Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. I think this was in either China or Japan. So that one's actually dead. But it was more of like just a whole bunch of different quirky game show games that they played on TV, and it was ridiculous. And the way people got eliminated was hilarious and ridiculous. So aside from that, not really, nothing else. But yeah, it was just Ninja Warrior, really.
You had mentioned one of the other amigos that you listen to from time to time talks about baseball, and so you developed like a almost a vicarious love for baseball. Have you ever watched any Japanese baseball?
Now that you mention it,
because I hear they do it fucking fun over there.
Yeah, during the anime episode, I actually mentioned him, the author that I was talking about, Mitsuru Adachi. He's the author that I said that made me appreciate baseball for what it is, because he loves baseball and he always writes using a backdrop of sports, right? And baseball just happens to form the backdrop of a lot of his stories, and that's why. For those of you who follow baseball closely, that's why Shohei Ohtani is such a big deal in Japan. Not just because he's a great baseball player, but Shohei Ohtani is basically the proxy for the baseball hero of Japanese culture, right? Where he could be an ace pitcher, but he's also hitting cleanup, right? He's like the fourth batter. So every single fictional Japanese baseball hero is usually takes that kind of form, right? Where they're the ace pitcher, where they're like throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, and they're also hitting cleanup, right? Where they're like hitting home runs, things of that nature. And Shohei Ohtani is basically like the closest that's ever gotten to that level, which is why he's such a popular player all around the world, right? He's like the proxy of the Japanese baseball hero. So yeah, there's my little history lesson for you guys.
That is excellent. I like it. Zenith, real quick before we go to chat shoutouts, I just want to say you have so much shit in common with my father. In high school, he did so. Like, not only are you guys both Coast Guards officers, like Coast Guardsmen officers or something like that, but like you guys both did the decathlon. Y'all both got like that's how you got like into the college and stuff. And then did you go to the academy when you did Coast Guard, or did you do OCS?
I have been unfortunately an academy grad.
Okay, yeah, bro. Like you would love hanging out with my dad one of these days.
Oh, I believe it.
Get you guys together to shoot the shit and see how it goes. He was in the comments on one of our other streams. Shout out to my father, Will Stevenson. Speaking of shout outs to the people in the chats, it's time to do some motherfucking chat shout outs, ladies and germs. The best part of the beginning of the show, where we interact with you just as much as you interact with us. So, Mrs. Producer, on that note, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and bring up the chat shoutouts. Our first one comes from our very good friend, Moonpilled Rational Optics. What's good, gentlemen? What's good with you two, Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics? Glad we could have you with us on today. I am currently pouring my Modelo into my 15-pound mug right here that I'm going to be drinking out of periodically throughout the stream. It's a fucking piece of billeted steel with a drinking hole put in it. So freaking awesome. Good to see you, Moonpilled Rational Optics. I will take a drink when I have both hands free after the chat shoutouts and stuff is done. Mrs. Producer, can you after we're done with everyone's chats, his second chat, I'll read that one. I'll read that one very last from Moonpilled Rational Optics. But next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Tam Tam saying, "What's up, fam? What's up, Tam Tam? Good to see you. #1 cheerleader in the cryptocurrency space." Speaking of cheerleaders, today's an excellent cheerleading day with lots of sports ball going on, lots of Degen Super Bowl going on. We don't have any. Actually, no, we used to have some cool ass commercials, but I don't know if they're relevant anymore. We'll see if we can come up with some commercials for you guys one of these days. Some more regular, like maybe like a hey, let's hit like an intermission button and it does like a little 1-minute commercial or some dumb shit. That'd be a fun thing to do one day. But it's good to see you, Tam Tam. Welcome to the show. Glad that we could have you with us here tonight. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Mr. Fox Mulder streaming during the SB. Yes, that's correct. Sam Bankman-Fried's trial happened, and we're streaming right now during it. So there you go. Good to see you, Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried, and also good to see you, Mr. Fox Mulder. Welcome, welcome. I'm joking, guys. By the way, he's referring to the Super Bowl. not our good friend from FTX. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got none other than Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, sir. Good to see you. I'm not going to take a drink from this right now because I'll probably chip my teeth. So I'll wait till there's no speaking necessary. But it's good to see you, Funkmaster Hex. The Julian from Trailer Park Boys of the Degen Roundtable and the Cryptocurrency Spear and Hexico in general. Glad that you could join us, Mr. Funkmaster Hex. Next up, my good friend, Dr. Alan Chen, Your Health Unplugged. The Super Bowl can suck it, Degen Roundtable. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go, Dr. Alan Chen. Good to see you, amigo. Looking fantastic over there. I think he's got some other comments from him later on, but we will get to those here in a moment. Next up, we've got Jack Simple. Oh, okay. So this is actually the part. Yes. So Jack Simple is talking about volleyball, which is essentially volleyball with walls on a similar court. And then Mrs. Producer, right above that one, Dr. Chen is talking about padel, which is it's a sport very similar to tennis. At 7:15. Yes, so padel is very popular outside of the U.S., especially in Spanish-speaking countries. Much fun. Dr. Chen and I played some padel with some El Salvadorians when we were down there the last time. It was super fun, super awesome. It's so much easier on your body than tennis. I don't know how many of you guys out there in the audience played tennis. I know Dace Northal from Degen Roundtable. Oh, you played tennis as well, Zenith. Oh, that's excellent.
Yes, I do all the white people sports.
Have you heard about?
For some reason, they're very prone to injury for me too. I'm just saying. Like, I played golf this weekend. I don't know what to tell you. Shot an 85, by the way. Let's go.
Oh my God, there you go. Well, for those of you guys that don't know, padel is super fun. It's like tennis, but without all the crazy stuff. There's glass walls everywhere, so you can rebound the ball off of the back of the court. So like in tennis, if you smack the ball super hard, the other person has to chase for it. In padel, if they smack it super hard, it's just going to bounce off the wall, and so you can just knock it right back onto their side of the court. And so the people that are just fucking going ham, like smashing it all day long, they tire themselves out, and the people are just like, oh, nice and easy, fucking smack, easy day, here we go. Padel is super fun though. It's like a combination of like tennis and racquetball, and similar to volleyball, like Jack Simple was talking about. By the way, shout out to Jack Simple, former World of Tanks player. Dude, that guy was fucking crazy. I don't know how many of you guys are in the Degen Roundtable Telegram. By the way, join the Telegram. QR code to join is right down there below. But I was talking to Jack about some nerd stuff earlier this week. We were shooting the shit about World of Tanks. We're gonna be hopping on at some point, playing some fun ass games later. But it's good to see you, Jack Simple. Welcome, and glad that we could have chit chats about video games and also real life sports ball. But to carry on with the chat shoutouts, we've also got Mr. K Hudson is the next up. Excuse me. I love the commercials that combine two sports like football and golf. Yes, that would be an interesting one, where you have to smack the golf ball or smack the football with a golf club and then run around and, I don't know, try and push people inside of golf ball holes or something. But that would be funny. I don't know where you find those commercials, Mr. K Hudson, but that sounds like a good time. I freaking love it. The next chat we got is from Your Health Unplugged, again, Dr. Alan Chen, asking, has Hexball been created? And if not, then how would you play? That's a good question. I guess it's you take the ball and you destroy it for 15 years, and then after the time's up, then you can go and try and score again or something. I'm not sure, but that would be pretty fun. And then Jack comes back with the next one, talking about, also forgot Spike Ball is also great. I've not played Spike Ball. That's an interesting one. Zenith, it sounded like you had something to say there, and then there's a couple more chat shoutouts I want to get to.
Oh, I was gonna say that I don't know what Hexball would be. Like, what do the Hexicans play? What do we like to do? To be honest, I don't think we're a very sporty bunch.
I think there's plenty of us in Hexico that can play sports. I don't know if we can play them well, but I think we would all be happy to play them.
This is true.
There's a lot of racing in Hex. There's a lot of car racing, and I don't know if it's Formula One or if it's rally or if it's around a thing. Hexball, first to get to Cuatro Cinco wins.
I can see that.
There you go.
That actually works out pretty well.
Yep, that's pretty good.
I'm just imagining some sort of kickball variant or something.
Yeah, some sort of kickball thing. It would be fun.
Something
whatever
very
it
much
is.
Beer league.
Yeah, paintball.
I don't know if paintball's beer league, but
you can play beer and you can play paintball and drink beers. That's a good time. That's a
I
fun
guess
time.
here's one option. So I went to a wedding over the summer, and they had a badminton net that had two. It was interlocked. Like there's two nets that were interwoven, so it's like four square. And then what we did is that it's two people to a team, and it's just volleyball with this like four square style thing. And that was just an absolute blast. And the thing was, you could only score points once you get to the king square. And then if you get 11 points, you win. Everything resets. Then the way it works as well is like you need more than 4 teams, like probably like 6 or 7 teams. So you need a good chunk of people to play it. But it was an absolute blast. Like we seriously played that for like 6 hours, I think.
Fucking A, dude. That's
It was
some
killer.
cardio then. If you're playing for 6 hours, that's
There
some
you go.
good shit.
So Hexball could maybe be that, but instead of doing 4 squares, we have 6 squares.
Yeah. Okay. 6. Okay. I see where you're going. So it's like a little pie chart.
Yeah, it's like
man.
Hexball, 6 teams.
If you want to scale it up to go crazy, then you get like dozens of teams, and they're all inside of a hexagon shaped arena, which is connected to other hexagons, and that's the net, is all the connections. So it would look like a honeycomb, and inside of each little honeycomb is one team of 2, and you've got 3 teams that you're facing off against or something like that. And it's just a bunch of fucking birdies flying around everywhere, man. That'd be crazy intense.
We'll talk to RG3, see if we can get something scheduled for Vegas.
Oh man, there's probably some cool things that that Hexagon can do. We're gonna get back to the chat shoutouts. We've got the one sports question, Mrs. Producer. I'm gonna go to Moonpilled Rational Optics question next, and then we'll shout out our good friends Pokidoo and Clintrons. All right, so he was talking about to the question stuff about sports and things. Someone needs to make a sports ball bro and a dadgum diddly pickup truck meme coin for Cappy. Yes, good shout out to our good friend Aaron Clary of everyone knows Cappy. Yes, we need to make a someone needs to make a meme coin for Cappy. Get his poor libertarian ass into the cryptosphere a little bit heavier. I know he likes Bitcoin. I don't know if he's a super degen or anything like that, but that would be super fun to see him over there.
I don't think it's too much inside alpha, so I feel pretty confident to talk about it. But when I was in Vegas for March for the Crypto Mindset Meetup, I know that Charlie and Miguel are pretty close with Aaron Clary as well. And I think they're in the works of actually having Charlie and Miguel rewrite a little bit of the forward for it's either Bachelor Pad Economics or Poor Richard's Retirement, just to give a little more crypto info. So I think that's in the works right now. No confirmation, but I know those boys are working together on something. So should be cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. They all run around with the same crowd. I know that we've seen Miguel and Rolo hang out before. Rolo's good friends with Cappy. Like they're all in the same they're all in the same sphere. So that'd be kick ass to see a cryptocurrency update for Bachelor Pad Economics. All right. We're gonna continue on with the chat shout out. So we've also got Mr. Pokidoo has showed up to the chat. Shout out to you, amigo. I like your little profile picture there. Richard's next move is to win. Remember, guys, not financial advice, but I'm sure that everyone's move in life is to win. So I'm glad that that's your thoughts, Mr. Pokidoo. Good to see you. Welcome. And I certainly hope that that's his next move is to win. I suppose time will tell, and we will certainly find out. But next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got our good friend and consistent amigo, Mr. Clintron. G'day to the Degen crew. Glad to see you, broski. Welcome. If I remember correctly, of course you're Australian. You're saying g'day, so g'day to you too, amigo. Welcome to the chats. And we've also got Mr. Beyond All saying, "What's up, folks? The mood and sentiment is good in the land of Hexaco. Can't wait what you guys input are tonight while watching. Can't wait to see what your guys' input is tonight while watching the Super Bowl." So excellent. Good to see you, Mr. Beyond All, amigo. Yes. Hopefully we have some good input. We're fixing to find out. Zenith, I have a question for you. You put in the chats earlier. Oh, and Quattro and Mr. Hexagon Lost in Asia with the motherfucking Quattro Cinco. Good to see you too, broski. Welcome to the chat. You snuck in there last minute. You thought I wouldn't see you, but I didn't actually. Mrs. Producer pulled you up. So thank you, Mrs. Producer. Shout out to Mrs. Producer, by the way. Behind the scenes, Mrs. McGettit, rocking and rolling with the super chats, with the show, with the cameras and the comments, and taking care of all of the crazy, cool, awesome things whilst I get lost here in the host position. Zenith, quick question for you before we toss it over to Agent J for some technical analysis. But I see that you put MXE in the chats, and I Googled MXE, and I did not get an answer that I think is well, I suppose it's appropriate. It's a hallucinogenic, but I don't think that's what you meant when you put it in the chats. What is MXE? Is that a sport?
MXE stands for Most Extreme Eliminations. It is the MTV dub of Takeshi's Castle, or Takashi's is one of them. It's a Japanese game show where they have like a bunch of like crazy challenges. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, but like the catch line is don't get eliminated. It's hilarious. You can go find the reruns. It's from like the late 90s, early 2000s.
I'm glad Z got the reference. Will, if you wanna have a good time for like a half hour or an hour or so, just watch the classic Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. You won't be disappointed, man.
Most Extreme Elimination. Okay, I'm gonna have to write that down. That's good.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime. If not, you can definitely find it somewhere online.
You know what? I just had a crazy idea. So, Dr. Chen asked us about the thing that we could do is like a Hexaco sports ball. What if like Hexaco put on like an obstacle course or a like a mud run or a Spartan race or something like that? I think that would be something that would be fun for the whole crypto family. Perhaps, I don't know. Maybe some people would get a little bit injured or something, but those are pretty fucking cool. I enjoyed those when I was in the Marine Corps, doing the O courses and running through the mud and doing the stuff. I've never done a civilian one, so I imagine they're more fun and also less fun at the same time. But I don't know, that could be a cool thing for Hexaco. So
there's levels to it. So
yeah,
I actually did a few back at the academy. I think, oh gosh, it was the Sandhurst team is like the people that used to go do these things, and I'd like invite people to go with them. But there was one up in New Hampshire that was pretty fun. Like half of it was you literally had to like ruck or attempt to run like a half mile through a river upstream.
Oh, that's cool.
And then
it's a good way to fuck your ankles up.
A little bit, yeah. So the correct answer is, well, everybody's wearing boots for this, obviously. But then you just got to go slow on that part. But there's a bunch of other stuff, like run around. You get to a station where there's like a paintball gun. You have to like go shoot a target. If you mess it up, you got to go carry ammo cans up a hill. And there's another part where you get like a medical stretcher, and you got to put one of your guys in there and do like 2 laps around the courtyard. But there was one that they did in the wintertime as well. So it's specifically cold and kind of snowing. It's in New Hampshire, so there you go. But then they also had a taser wire maze.
Oh, those are fun. Those are cool. Yeah. Where is this in New Hampshire? Do you remember?
I can't. I'll have to text some of my old buddies who used to do it, but I never did that one. I heard everyone talking about it. It sounded fun though.
Yeah, I lived up there. I spend time up there when I can. So like all of my New Hampshire shout out to my New Hampshire homies. Fucking, I would love to do that. That's pretty fucking cool sounding.
Yeah, the oh gosh, what is it? Tough Mudders, Spartan Race, all those things. Yeah. They're a good time. I've done a handful of them. They're a blast. You don't have to be super in shape, but it helps if you are.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Speaking of things that helps in super in shape, we've got our good friend Dace Northal from the Degen Roundtable joining up. Oi to you too, sir. Welcome to the stream. Glad to have you, Dace. Dace in the comments. Good to see. That's always excellent. Alrighty, guys, we've done enough chat shoutouts. I've been stalling far too long. Agent J, let's hop on over into giving the folks a little bit what they came here for. Let's give them some cryptocurrency analysis. Would you mind walking us through some of the stuff?
If you don't mind, I do have one fun thing I want to hit before we get going.
Okay.
So real quick, current score of the Super Bowl. I'm not even paying attention right now, but we have Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles 24-0. Let's go. Suck it, Taylor Swift. But also from our good friend Christian Hines, he posted this. We have this from Jim Cramer, which is interesting because the Eagles are winning right now, which I can only assume that they're going to...
Cramer? He's on the left, right?
Yeah, the dude.
Okay. Kind of hard to tell sometimes.
A little bit. For anybody that understands, it's the inverse Cramer rule. So Christian tweeted out, he's like, I can't even be bothered to watch now that the rest of the game, now that I know how it's going to end. All in on the Chiefs now. Yeah, so I think I got in here too. I said, thanks, Jim. Way to spoil the ending. Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking good.
Yeah. All right, take it away.
Okie dokie. Agent J.
All right. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen here. So, Mrs. Producer, when you get a chance, go ahead and pull that up for the rest of the folks to see at home. Okay, so Bitcoin, as always, we are going to go over my favorite things to go over, right? So we're going to go over some time, the Lucas cycles, right? Analyze these 60-day cycles, and we're going to go over price and trend as well. So as it stands, I still maintain my long-term thesis that we are bullish. And this is still the bull 60-day cycle to lose. We are currently on day number 28 of the 60-day cycle, and we almost gave the count back to the bears when we had this low here. What was that? That was about $91,530. And you'll realize why the bulls almost gave up the count here when I do and pull some of the fibs later on. But as it stands, the bulls still have firm control of the market. All right. So currently on day number 28, if we are expecting the bulls to hold momentum and take us into a right translated 60-day cycle all the way up until the very tail end of, let's see, if we extrapolate this all the way up until 60 days, that'll, I believe, sometime in mid-March, right? So the 14th of March would put us at day 60 of the cycle. So we're going to expect the bulls to take this high here of 109,356 and take us into new all-time highs, probably sometime close to the end of February into about the first week of March before we start coming down into the latter half of the 60-day cycle, or the later half, I should say, not the latter half, the later half of the 60-day cycle, and look for that cycle low sometime around the 14th of March. Now, if the bears were to take control of the 60-day cycle, they have a very simple goal. And the simplest goal is to take this $91,530 low, right? If the bears take this low, then on a balance of probabilities, we are probably going to roll over looking into new prices heading into the latter half of the cycle, right? So very simple goal for the bears. Take the low here, 91,530. And for the bulls, you want to protect this low and start heading back up and look for new all-time highs into the later parts of February into early March. All right, so very simple goal for the bulls and very, very simple goal for the bears. If only it were that simple, right? So let's go ahead and do an analysis on trend and on price as well. Let me go ahead and turn off the 60-day cycles. As I always say, an analyst must have both a bullish and a bearish count. So I'm going to do a little bit of a refresher for people and for the folks at home, right? An argument could be made that, oh, is that the correct one? Let me see here. Yep, that's the one. That's the one. Let me switch these two up, mix them up a little bit. Let's bring this guy back down here, turn him off, and turn this back on, right? An argument could be made that the bull market is indeed over, and we are headed into a very painful rest of 2025 into the very extended bear market, right? Because in terms of structure, you could certainly count a complete Elliott wave cycle, right? You have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 already in. And another thing, in terms of price, right? If you take a trend-based fib extension, comparing the magnitude of wave 1 to the magnitude of wave 5, you could see that when you take a fib extension from the start to the end of 1 to the end of 4, that your wave 5 hit square in the face, the 1-for-1 fib extension, right? That is once again comparing the magnitude of 1 to the magnitude of 5, right? And if we were to assume, right, on a balance of probabilities, that wave 3 is your most impulsive out of the 3 motive waves, out of 1, 3, and 5, then 1 and 5 tend to be the same in magnitude, right? And that's exactly what we got. So in terms of time, in terms of structure, and in terms of price, you could argue, you could make a very strong argument that the bull market is already over and we're going to head down into lower prices. What would make this more convincing for me as an analyst, right? Or at least make me a little bit more bearish within the medium term? Well, very simple. If you take a fib retracement, taken from your swing low of $89,000, right, to your swing high, that's our all-time high. If you were to hit the 886, which is 91,237, right? 886 is a very powerful fib. The bears came close to hitting it, but coming close is not good enough. You actually have to hit the 886. And until the time that they hit the 886, then I'm going to maintain my bullish long-term stance. But if they do come back down and hit the 886 at 91,237, not only would that increase the probability that we surrender the 60-day cycle count over to the bears, but it would also give the bear market is here, bull market is over theory much more credence, right? Because that would mean that the likelihood that we sweep this low here becomes much more likely. Now, for the bulls, which is the more likely scenario, let me zoom back out here. We are looking at a double 1-2, right? You have your 1-2 in green already in. That is our macro count. Right? And then we're looking for the completion of the smaller count in purple, right? You can see here that we are looking for the end of our wave 4 before completing wave 5 in purple, which would complete the 3 in a larger degree. Now, the reason why I always argue that this is the more reasonable scenario, one, is in terms of not just market cycle theory, because you know that I practice market cycle theory, and we are expecting that the tail end of 2025, the post-halving year, sometime in October or November, is when we're expecting the top of the bull market to occur, right? And in normal market cycle theory. All right. And we are still very early on in 2025. That's number one. Number two, if you take a look at the volume, right, you can clearly see that the most amount of volume came in during this move up. And if we were to count this as your wave 5 and the bull market was over, then the overwhelming amount of volume came in during your wave 5 and not during your wave 3. Again, right? We always do our analysis based on probabilities. And probability speaking, the most amount of volume you're expecting to come in during a regular market cycle is during your wave 3, right? So in terms of time, we are not quite there yet. And in terms of volume, you're getting the most amount of volume in your wave 3. So you could argue that you are actually dealing with a very bullish double 1-2 count here for Bitcoin. Right? So there's one of your reasons why I am long-term bullish, right? Both in terms of structure and in terms of time and in terms of volume as well. But as always, we have to give the bears their due. Now let's go over the 4-hour chart, get a little bit more granular with it, right? And go over a few of our bullish and bearish scenarios. First one, you're looking for the green wave 5 to complete, right? As you can see, we have already hit the minimum targets for your 4. So the question really is our wave 4 in green already in? Now, we do have already the minimum fib target hit at the 236. The only thing that I'm really looking for in terms of confluence is for time, right? And we are going to analyze time on our next scenario. Right? In this scenario, we are considering the green wave 4 to already be in. And if that is the case, then your next targets to the upside are as follows. All right. If you take a fib extension taken from the start to the end of your wave 1 to the end of your green wave 4, then the minimum target you're expecting is $115,000 and $850 for Bitcoin, right? That's your minimum target. Again, comparing your 1 to 5. And then the next target, right? If you take a different fib pool, taken from the start to the end of your 3 to the end of your 4, a common extension for the 5 is between the 382 and the 618 fibs, right? So that puts you at $121,000 and $144,000 for Bitcoin. The only issue with this one, right, and why I prefer the first bullish scenario is, like I said, in terms of time. When you compare the length of your 4 in purple to the length of your 4 in green, ideally, your moves in a larger degree, in this case, your wave 4, right, in green, at the minimum, you want it to be just as long in time as your moves in a smaller degree. And as you can see, we are not quite there yet, right? We are just beyond the 382 fib time. We have not quite reached the 1-for-1 fib time yet, right? So in terms of time, your 4 in a larger degree is much shorter than your 4 in a lower degree, right? Which makes it that much more likely that we are dealing with the first scenario here. And we are still looking for the end of your wave 4, right? So on the short term, we are looking for potentially lower prices. We don't necessarily have to sweep this low, right? We just have to finish the structure in terms of time using the 1-for-1 fib extension, right? So we're looking for your wave 4 to end sometime February 15th, so next Saturday, right? But again, time is never an invalidation, right? It just would be nice if your green 4 were to extend a little bit further in time than compared to your purple 4, right? Which is a count in smaller degree. But again, we don't necessarily have to sweep the 91,500 low here, right? But as it stands, we are looking for bullish prices to the upside, right? Once again, just on a balance of probabilities, right? So there is your bullish and bearish scenarios for Bitcoin. Z, Will, did you have anything to add?
Not really. Only thing that I would add is that looking at my moving averages, we are below the 20, we are below the 50, but right now the 20-day moving average is above the 50. And our super long-term stuff, the 200-day moving average is down to 79,000. We're still well above it. So I agree with you in the sentiment that the bull play is still very much alive and well, and I think there's a good argument for it. The interesting thing for the cycle count is that right now our high is on day 7, and having a day 7 high is very, very, very improbable, and we haven't seen it before. I think day 8 is the earliest we've seen a high. So it seems like the cycle count is going to be an interesting thing to watch, and then also at the same time, if we can find some sort of support around this area, I think that'll be massive, and that'll help us pump later into the cycle, which should be like late February, early March pump is what I'm anticipating if the bull case appears to be true.
Same. Yeah, and the fact that your moving averages, like your short-term moving averages are stacked on top of your long-term ones, right? Again, gives a little bit more credence to that bullish count, right? Because if those moving averages were starting to converge on each other, right, marking some indecision in the market, it's usually the times when those moving averages start to converge on each other. Then I'd be a little bit more hesitant to be so bullish on a long term, but everything seems to be lining up for a fairly good Q1 for Bitcoin. We're also getting more labor market data next week. We're getting some CPI numbers, both core and regular CPI. And I think we're getting some FOMC minutes and some statements from Jerome Powell for as far as I don't exactly know what the nature of the press conference would be, but it's probably going to be somewhere along the lines of where he thinks the economy is going long term. So that is probably going to move the markets to a slight degree, but not as much as the core inflation and the CPI coming out sometime, I believe, early next week. I think that's going to be on Tuesday. No, it's going to be middle of next week, so Wednesday.
Yep.
Core inflation and regular inflation is coming out. So big week for crypto next week.
Big week for economic stuff overall,
Yep.
because we got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it could either make us or break us. But if I were to give the folks a preview, they're expecting core inflation year over year to drop another 0.1%. So from 3.2 to the forecast of 3.1. So if core inflation keeps dropping, remember, core inflation is that thing that the Federal Reserve likes a little bit more than regular CPI, because core takes out those really volatile items like food and energy. And so that gives them a flatter line, and it gives them a much more stable outlook, long-term outlook as to how the economy is going to perform. So if that thing starts heading downwards, well, Jerome Powell's happy.
Very true.
It just
Very
takes
true.
out the stuff that people like, just the most important stuff, the food that keeps us alive and the energy that keeps us warm. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we care about that, right? Like the average Joe and Jane cares about that because it's what we see reflected on our day-to-day necessities of living. But because it's so volatile, right? It's so extremely volatile. It's hard to predict the long-term outlook and effects of those items on the economy because they're so volatile.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like
I'm
the
I'm
Fed
not
likes to
being
look at the stable
terribly.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not being very serious. I was gonna make a joke
Ah.
about them being reptiles, and also they don't eat food because they're machines over there. So it's like, they don't need electricity or they don't need food because they're actually not humans. But that was my fun little joke. It is important data. They do their thing. It's a system that works. And um man, I forgot where I was gonna go with that.
Well,
Doesn't
you
really
actually
matter.
I know you're half joking with it, but there's actually a good point there. And it's this
Yeah.
weird case where it's like, it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things, where it's like, if you want an accurate representation of overall prices, excluding food and energy does make sense because they are volatile. However, at the same time, the other side of the coin is that they are some of the largest costs in the average person's budget. So you definitely should pay attention to them. So it's just a matter of, are you trying to look at the cost that people are paying on a monthly basis, or are you trying to look at broader economic data and take out the more volatile things to get a more widescreen view of the layout overall and understand where the rest of the market is going, not just the big movers.
The
So,
question is, what is the story do they want to tell? Right?
that's
Do
true.
they want to do they want to tell a fun story? Do they want to tell a relevant story, short-term story, long-term story, right? Like that it's all storytelling. And it could be very useful. And in fact it
Could
is.
be.
The market reacts to it, so it's good things for us to know and good things for us to watch. Like, whether it doesn't matter if the knuckle bones are true, if everyone acts like they are and everyone makes their buys and their sells and they decide to go to war or not based on what the knuckle bones say. So like, in that respect, I agree with you. And I also don't know anything about how this all works, so like I automatically put it into the fairy realm and things of that nature. So like, folks at home, you guys should probably not listen to me because I'm making fun of it. You should probably listen to these guys because they actually know what they're talking about. So thank you for your guys' analysis on that. Do we want
No, I
is
mean,
there anything
you had a valid point. Most
Yeah.
people, that's why people get pissed.
Mhm.
And they ask the question of why the hell do you care so much and take away the stuff that we care about, right? Because it's the truth. Most people care about what their grocery bills are, what their what their cost of living is. So that's their energy, that's their rent, that's their grocery bill, that's their energy bill, that's their travel costs. Those are the things that we care about on a day-to-day basis. And people get pissed at the Federal Reserve and at the government because they're like, well, why are you extracting those things? So it like from a layman's perspective, it seems like they're trying to fool you, right? That they're trying to gerrymander the data to paint a particular picture. But again, like giving these guys some grace. If you're a mathematician, you're like, yeah, if you want a stable outlook or like a stable view into the economy, you're going to take out the most volatile stuff, right? It just so happens that the volatile stuff is the stuff that people cares about.
Which is why it's volatile,
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't, then like nobody cares about water. The price of water doesn't change a whole lot. Nobody cares about the price of spoons, right? The price of spoons doesn't change. So maybe we take water and spoons and we use that as our new numbers for the system as it exists. We have an interesting sort of kind of question. I'm going to tee off a little bit on the technical analysis you guys were doing earlier. From Mr. Karl Turchek, Pulse and Ethereum decoupling. Oh wait, no, we haven't covered Ethereum yet. Did you have any thoughts for Ethereum? Either one of you guys?
Not much on Ethereum, honestly. Price continues to just bleed out a little bit. Still below the moving averages over there, so there's nothing really new. It's just kind of more of the same. It's awkward because we are yet again well below our 200 daily moving average over there, but that's nothing new.
Yeah.
For me, it's the same. I was over at John Boy and Vet's channel the other day, Crypto Compassion, and we spoke we spoke in depth about the ETH Bitcoin ratio, and they asked a few questions as to why it's important to pay attention to ratios as opposed to just the US dollar valuations. So in terms of the ETH Bitcoin ratio, like I told them, and I tell the gang every single time, right? That's the thing that you need to pay attention to, because if you're just looking at ETH USD, you're going to be depressed. But at this point, right? Again, market cycle theory, Ethereum tends to find a bottom against Bitcoin, right? Either in December of the halving year or January, February of the post-halving year. And you could see reflected on the ETH Bitcoin ratio, especially when you take a look at the weekly chart, right? You're getting that strong bullish divergence on the weekly chart, which means that even though we're still technically, we did find a new low for the ETH Bitcoin ratio for this 4-year cycle, right? What you see on the RSI and the weekly is bullish divergence, right? You have higher lows, right? Even though you have a lower low on the ETH Bitcoin ratio. So that's bullish. Further, you'll recognize this if you go to the Telegram Tuesday calls. Dace makes it a point to always show everybody, hey, look, man, look at where the leverage positions are sitting for Ethereum. In all of 2023 and the majority of 2022 and 2024, most of the degens were putting their positions on the short side of things, right? That's where a ton of the liquidity, when it came to leverage, was sitting at, right? On the short side. Now it's flipped. Now most of the liquidity, or at least the lion's share of the liquidity, is sitting on the long side, right? So like these are the things that the market makers are paying attention to, or at least the degens, right? The people are taking the people that are using leverage. They know that if they're practicing market cycle theory, ETH Bitcoin is probably going to bottom soon-ish, right? If it hasn't already, January, February, you're getting that divergence on the RSI, right? The bullish divergence, and then 2025 just in general is usually the time when altcoins start outrunning Bitcoin. Right. So there's a lot of bullish things happening on Ethereum, on the Ethereum side. You just won't see it on the US dollar valuation, right? You just won't see it in the US dollar chart. Right. But on the ETH Bitcoin chart, you can make a good argument that Ethereum is, starting to show some signs of strength. At least some life.
Our good friend Moonpilled Rational Optics says, what is the Bitcoin to eggs chart saying?
The Bitcoin to egg chart, what's that saying, Moonpill? It's saying that you could buy an overwhelming amount of eggs with your Bitcoin compared to how many eggs you could buy back in 2021 at the top of the bull market. You could buy more eggs now with your Bitcoin than you could at the very top of the 2021 bull market. That's how well Bitcoin is doing.
For those of you guys that are not aware, the price of eggs has shot up recently, and the story is there's avian flu or bird flu or some bullshit that's killing all the chickens or something. So they got to cull a bunch of herds because it's super infective or something. I don't know if it's true. I don't know what the details are. I heard this in passing from a friend of mine. So that is the recent price in egg spike or something like that. Again, guys, we're just assholes on the internet talking about our feelings and stuff. So that's it's current in the news zeitgeist, the price of eggs, which is why I think our good friend Mr. Moonfield Options or Rational Optics is bringing it up. There's also a question from Mr. Beyond All. Let me see. I'm playing producer right now as well, so I'm echoing inside my own head. What do you think of the last 3 days dojis in the daily chart of Bitcoin? Do we read anything from them? I don't know what this means, Jay.
The dojis beyond they're a sign of indecision, right? The fact that there's a very small margin of the open and closing prices of those candles tells you that the market is indecision. It's good because you could take a look at the current market structure, and there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of sideways action going on, and that's telling me that the structure is corrective in nature, right? It's not impulsive, right? It's not aggressive moves to the downside. And so when you're getting a ton of overlap, you're getting a ton of indecision, you're getting things that are very three-wave-ish, which means corrective in nature, and not impulsive, right? Which means 5 in nature, right? In terms of the Elliott wave structure, it's telling me that this is corrective. Which is why, even though in the short term, I'm looking for a potential low locally on price, right? Not sweeping the $89,000 low that we had a few weeks ago. Even though I'm short term still a little bit bearish, long term, I'm still bullish. And that has a ton to do with market structure. Market structure is king. And doji means it just means that the market's very indecisive right now. Beyond. That's it.
Yeah, just
Still
a
muted.
lot of nothing, but a lot of volatility too. It's kind of a weird time, but be expected at this point, honestly.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the technical analysis and the market analysis and things. We're gonna go ahead and jump into a super quick round of chat shoutouts since we're already basically here as we sit. So we'll cover some of the chats that we have missed since we started doing the technical analysis, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about the recent stuff that's happening. Which I just took a look at my portfolio, which I've not seen for the last several days, and like, holy shit, it's made some moves. So we'll get into that shortly. But before we do that, it's time for some chat motherfucking shout outs. So, Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and pull up some of these chat shout outs that we have missed, starting with our good friend, Mr. Moonmutt, a real life friend of mine. Shout out to you, broski. My Chiefs ain't winning, but I'm still a happy Hexkin. Fucking good to see you, Moonmutt. Welcome, welcome, broski. The Chiefs are not winning. That is correct. And I'm glad to see that you're a happy Hexkin. There's some good stuff going on right now, which I had no idea was happening until I like opened up my little portfolio viewer while like we're streaming live here, and I was like, whoa, that's a different number than I'm used to seeing. That's pretty cool. So good to see you, Mr. Moonmutt. Welcome, welcome. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got RH Max. Can these moves resetting the monetary policy on Pulse Chain lead us to price go up even without the Ethereum price going up? So I think this is a very, very specific question, and this is kind of like a very specific if-then.
That's clever. That's a clever question by Max there, because it is
monetary
like,
policy.
yeah, it is. In a way, it is, right? You significantly decrease the inflation rate of incentive, which is like
and Hex
monetary policy, right? So, yes, and yes, and Hex in terms of T shares too, right? Because of the very big stakes that were made over the past few days.
Yep.
This is a very clever question by RH Max.
Yes.
True.
So,
I actually
ahead,
have one of RH Max's tweets pulled up that we're going to cover a little bit later on. But yeah, this is one of the big questions of the week, is trying to understand what all the different changes that like literally happened over the last 7 days mean for the Pulse Chain ecosystem and how it affects the math with everything going on.
Yeah. So in my personal opinion, is it possible that you see a decoupling between the core assets and Ethereum, right? I don't know how possible that is, because if the liquidity is still strongly tied to Ethereum, right, then whatever Ethereum does on the Ethereum side will still affect things on the Pulse Chain side, right? Because it's if they're that tied so strongly by the liquidity, then whatever Ethereum does will affect Pulse Chain. And to be quite honest with you, Max, if Jerome, right, Jerome and his Fed policy, right, his monetary policy is still tight, risk assets just don't like tight policy, man, because the price of money is expensive. If that makes sense, Max, right? If the price of money is expensive, people are not going to take out loans. Businesses are not going to expand. They're going to be very tight in terms of hiring. They're not going to try and innovate, right? They're going to be tight with their purses. And risk assets don't like that, because that means businesses, the valuation of these businesses and right, their tickers on the traditional market, they don't go up. So that's why risk assets don't like tight policy. It's also the reason why, one of the big reasons why you don't see any sustained altcoin rallies, right? Everybody's like, how come these rallies aren't lasting us several months? How come they're being like smashed after weeks? It's because there's indecision. There's still indecision within the Fed, right? Even though we've cut 100 basis points, policy is still tight. And until you get QE, essentially, risk assets are going to act the way that they're acting, and that they're going to get some pumps, but it's going to be short-lived. And I think you're going to get the same thing from the RH ecosystem, right? Unless you see a complete decoupling of Pulse Chain from everything else in the world, I just don't think it's possible. I know that sounds bearish, but I can't look at it in a vacuum, because Pulse Chain doesn't exist in a vacuum.
I don't think that's bearish. I just think it's realistic because it does always take into account Hart's law, which is that because we have liquidity bonding, everything will be kind of tied together to a certain extent, which is not a bad thing necessarily. If anything, it's going to be one of the main factors that helps the entire market run here shortly. But I will say this, that Pulse Chain has shown multiple times it has the ability to run independently of everything else going on, largely due to the fact that it is a smaller market cap coin compared to everything else. Like right now I got the Pulse Chain, PulseX liquidity on PulseX right now, it's about $18.1 million. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot actually, which means that the ability to pump independently is absolutely possible. And you can start to see that kind of stuff happen once you get a lot of large players coming through. We get some volume going on. We maybe even have a bit of a deflationary supply when it comes to the Pulse Chain now that we have pump.tires. There's a lot of factors that go into this. And again, the track record shows we can pump independently, and we have.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right, Z? I know we have the ability to pump independently. The question is always going to be, can it be sustained? Right? And if the Fed is tight with their purse, I just don't see risk assets making the kind of run that they did like in prior cycles. Remember when ETH bottomed, the Fed was already in QE, right? They were in money printing mode. We're not in that same context. And until we get a strong transition, or at least more confidence in the market that Jerome Powell is going to start cutting rates at a regular basis, the market's going to be indecisive. Just how it is. It's the unfortunate reality of things.
I'm going to go ahead and
that's true.
Swoop in here. Chat shout-outs, take a hold of the reins of the show style. And I'm going to take us a little bit past this RH Max chat. So I sure do hope that we have answered your chat, RH Max, about the
we'll hit it again
Pulse
later.
Chain running without Ethereum. Yes, we'll come back to it because that is also one of the things that we're going to be talking about here shortly. But we're going to continue on with chat shoutouts and go straight on to Mr. Carl Turacek, which we've already sort of kind of covered, but is Pulse and ETH decoupling? I would say it looks fucking like it. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not a technical analyst. I'm just kind of a guy who operates on his feelings. But like, I have Pulse Chain pulled up on my gopulse.com right now, and it's up 9%. PulseX is up 26%. Incentive is up 65%. Hex is up 35%. And this is all on what I presume is the 24-hour time frame. So if we're looking at Pulse Chain as a whole, yes, it is decoupled from Ethereum, at least as of now. This is, today data. It's not necessarily like what has been happening over the last month data. But like we're as coupled to Ethereum as we choose to be. Each and every single day, the number of people buy, the number of people sell, it's like we can look for patterns, and we can look for tie downs and everything, and that will all be determined by the amount of people that are interested and the amount of people that want to dump their money into things. So that is my personal analysis on that. We will cover that again more later on in the evening when we start talking about some of the stuff that's been going on Pulse Chain. But to continue on with the chat shoutouts, next up we've got Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. Good to see you, Fast Abdul. Tell me your secrets.
This is producer. If I can get a screen share real quick, I have something for this one actually.
Yes, I thought you did.
Yeah, we have a nice post here from our friend Sami with the very weak chin saying Pulse Chain can't flip Cardano because it's not interesting enough. And then we have this: a strong jawline is everything in crypto. Look at that.
Yep.
Look at that handsome man.
Yes.
This looks like a meme
go.
template if I've ever seen one.
Oh man, it's got to be snowing up there in not so freedom land, but that's fucking crazy, dude. Look at all that snow. I don't know if it's snowing where you guys are at, Jay. I'm sure it's not. It's fucking beautiful weather over there in Zona. Z, are you getting any winter wonderland up fucking like 12,000 feet where you're at, or some craziness? No. It's nice and sunny down here in Texas. It was 80 degrees yesterday, so I'm out here like in fucking basketball shorts and a t-shirt, having a good time. Fucking, it's good to see you, Fast Abdul. You have an excellent jawline, good sir, and that seems to be the secret of Pulse Chain, is it all rides on Fast Abdul's jawline. So you just keep working out those chin muscles, keep those mandibles nice and strong, Fast Abdul, and we'll see what we can do to keep these bags pumping. All right, so we're gonna go ahead.
Will, we've been talking about it, so I want to give people an actual visual, right? So you
Sure.
so you guys can see
Please.
exactly how Pulse Chain is looking like against Ethereum. So if I could share my chart here really quickly.
Please do.
You guys want to see how Pulse Chain is doing against Ethereum? Here you go. You guys pull up Pulse Chain, so the wrap pulse on TradingView, right? You go to this drop down box up here. You see US dollars. Click on that, and you click Ethereum, and then you're going to be able to see how Pulse Chain. Let's go on the weekly chart, so it's a little bit of a bigger picture. You could see how Pulse Chain is doing against Ethereum. Now, as it stands, right? We just closed the week. Look at the weekly green candle for Pulse Chain, right? This was last week. That's a nice candle. On the short term, long term, that looks like it's down and to the right against Ethereum.
Yeah.
And so, like I mentioned, the question always is, can the rally be sustained? As it stands, it looks like you're getting some decoupling, right? Or at least you could say it a different way, that Pulse Chain is outrunning, right? Outpacing Ethereum. But we're getting close to resistance, right? Rejection. Are we going to get rejected a third time here? Who knows?
no.
So the question is, can it be sustained? Short term, that's a nice green candle. All right. But long term, that's a downtrend, my friend.
Mhm.
And a strong one at that. Okay. Kind of looks like how ETH has been doing against Bitcoin.
Hey, coincidences. And you know, you're absolutely right. This is it's like the runners are in a long race and we don't know where the finish line is, but somebody just sprinted ahead of someone else, right? And the finish line is wherever you cash out, you know. So in the short term, things are looking nice. Things are looking good. If you bought yesterday and you're holding today, you're feeling great. If you bought whatever that chart was toppity top, you're not feeling so good.
Yeah.
So it's all about perspective. It's all about like where you're at, how long you've been holding, what your plan is, what's your timeline. You know, are you in it for 20 minutes? Are you in it for 15 years? Right? Like, so as of now, this is some nice little serve up of dopamine. And their green candles brings eyes. We all know this. Green candles is one of the best marketings. So this is a good little thing happening right now. But you know, don't lose sight of the final goal. If we start getting more sellers than buyers, then that green weekly candle turns right back into a red weekly candle for next week. So we shall see. Jay's absolutely right. Let's see what the future holds.
On the bright side, though, Will.
Yeah.
For almost 37 weeks, going on 38, Pulse Chain, and we haven't looked at the others, right? But Pulse Chain at least has held the bottom against Ethereum, as in it does not want to give up the ratio any lower. 37 weeks of holding that bottom is pretty damn good. It's a strong sign that the whales are coming in and supporting price at that particular ratio. So that's bullish in my eyes. 37 weeks, I know you would like to see a move to the upside sooner rather than later, but the fact that it's been 37 weeks and the ratio does not want to budge any lower, that is a good sign.
37 weeks to slow the spread, as they said back in the the Rona days. All right, we're going to continue on with the chat shoutouts. We have already sort of kind of covered this with Moonpilled Rational Optics. What's the Bitcoin to eggs chart saying? Good to see you. We already sort of kind of did some teasing on this, but going to cover it anyways. But to tee right off into it, there was 40,000 eggs stolen over in Pennsylvania. I think that might be why the Eagles are doing so well in this very fantastic bowl that's going on right now. They probably all just ate like fucking 30,000 eggs before the game started. They're all jacked up on protein and ready to rock and roll. But it's good to see you. Good to see you, amigo. And yes, let's I don't necessarily hope that they get found or hope that they figure out what's going on, but like that's an interesting thing to think about. When things start getting scarce, things start getting stolen. You know, we can take this example and we can extrapolate it into the cryptocurrency market. So like as we get into the bull market, be more careful of wrench attacks, be more careful of wallet hacks, be more careful of, you know, signing transactions you don't know what the fuck about, right? Like that, I know several people that have been robbed of astronomical amounts of money, unfathomable amounts of money. I know personal people You know, I've witnessed people get robbed in real time on the internet with like, you know, wallets getting hacked and shit. And it's like, it is of the utmost importance that you guys pay attention to all of your security, especially in this time where things start getting more and more valuable. More people are going to want your Bitcoin when the Bitcoin goes to a higher price. More people are going to want your Ethereum. More people are going to want your Pulse chain. More people are going to want your Hex, right? They're going to, if people get access to your wallet, they're start emergency Hex or emergency end staking all of your shit. So keep your shit unlocked. Pay attention to the things that you're signing. Pay attention to your transactions. Keep an eye on both shoulders. Keep a weathered eye on the horizon. Always watch what's happening and what's going on. And you guys should be fine. But like, pay attention as things start getting more valuable. People start getting more desperate and more laws start getting broken. People start doing some silly shit. So it's good that we think about this 40,000 eggs as like what could possibly happen to Bitcoin in the near future. When people see a lucrative opportunity, they oftentimes take it. So there you go. Good little chat shout out there. And then for the final chat shout outs, we've got Crypto Stylist coming in from the far east, the land of the rising sun. Good morning, Degens. Good morning to you, Miss Crypto Stylist. Good to see you here on the Degen Roundtable.
If we can get a screen share, Mrs. Producer, real quick.
Please.
So, good old Pulse 369 going on down in Las Vegas, March 6th through the 9th. By the way, you might notice that if you scroll down, you'll see some familiar faces. We got RG3, Coffee, myself, Nate. Will, are you on here?
I'm not speaking. No, I'm going to be running security and stuff like that at the
Yes, but we also have. Oh, who's that? Look at that. We got Crypto Stylist.
Oh, well, shout out to Crypto Stylist. You're going to be speaking at this at the Pulse Chain conference.
Yes, we will see you in Vegas. Very excited to hang out with you in person.
Wonderful, wonderful. That'll be good. Look at all these fantastic speakers, man. Prairie Banana, Max,
stud.
Sloth.
Look at this stud. Oh, and that guy. Wow.
Yeah, dude. We got everybody over there. Pacific Northwest.
Does this picture look familiar?
Yes, Fast Abdul. Oh, we got Crypto Gaffix as well, just to the left of him. Crypto Gaffix, the gentleman, came over and made those fantastic seed phrase cards. By the way, if you guys ask Crypto Gaffix nicely, I'm sure that he will send you a Degen Roundtable crypto key card. He sent some to some very good friends of mine, and totally like surprised the shit out of me. So that was really cool. So shout out to Crypto Gaffix and his crypto seed phrase cards and his crypto onboarding cards for helping people get into Pulse Chain and everything. So super cool to have collaboration with him. And look at all these fucking beautiful speakers, man. This is gonna be such a good.
Oh yeah.
I'm so stoked. I'm gonna be driving down there from Washington. So anybody that's in between Washington and Vegas, get ready to see me rolling through your necks of the woods, Mr. Kenturian 54X. I'm shouting at you specifically, buddy. I'm gonna stop by and say hi. We'll have a jolly good time. But that ties up chat shoutouts. Let's go ahead and hop on into the substantive part of the show. So some of the things that we're going to talk about today. For those of you guys that don't know, Pump.Tires has launched on Pulse Chain. Also, there was some SEC reassignment regarding some fellows that were on the Richard Hart case. So we'll try and touch on that. There's been some incentive reward changes on the Pulse X farms. So for those of you guys that are in the liquidity farms, not necessarily the pools, but in the V1 farms where you earn incentive token for providing liquidity, there's been some ratio changes there. And also there's a Tornado developer or Tornado Cash developer, Alexei Pertsev, has been released for appeal. So we're going to be covering these things today. So, excuse me, we'll go ahead and start off with the Pump.Tires review. So for those of you guys that don't know, Pump.Tires is the Pulse Chain version of Pump.Fun, but there's a way cooler thing that exists on Pump.Tires, and that's that the fee that is taken in the transactions fucking burns the Pulse. So Pulse is gone. So we've got a way to burn. We've got a way to burn PulseX. We've got a way to burn Pulse. There is, I think there's a thing that burns incentive, but I'm not entirely positive on that one. And we've got a way to burn Hex. So like a lot of the Richard Hart core coins, I'm not entirely positive on incentive, but I think that you can burn incentive. Again, not sure. But like pretty much all of the Richard Hart core coins have a mechanism for being burned. And that's pretty fucking cool. Reduces the amount of supply that's on the market And also like pump.tires is super cool, super fun. So like shout out to all the Degens that are going over there and making some crazy awesome new coins and tokens and shit on pump.tires. But what are your guys' thoughts? Zenith and Agent J, if you have any thoughts on this recent pump.tires launch.
I think that it is a new mechanism, and it is a bit out of character from everything we've seen with Richard Hart previously, because personally, I thought the messaging was invest in the core coins. Everything else is kind of just a little bit of a distraction. But then he does this. But I understand that the play is he's trying to capture on the pump.fun momentum and say that, hey, Solana folks, if you want similar stuff, but better throughput, better projects, and better fees, Pulse Chain's got it. And it actually helps the ecosystem over here as opposed to just helping the people that run the project purely. So that's what we got. If we can get a screen share real quick. This is Pump.Tires, and we have, we got a lot of stuff going on here. These are all the tokens that have launched. So the way
I've never used it. Have you ever gone through it?
I've looked at it. I just haven't put money into anything.
Okay.
So the way that it works is you pretty much start trading coins on Pump.Tires. And then once it actually hits a market cap of 200 million pulse for bid liquidity, then it actually launches and it burns a lot of the pulse and then creates the permanent liquidity pool on Pulse X. So what it does is it burns Pulse Chain, the Pulse Chain token, and then it also adds extra functionality to Pulse X where it hosts the tokens. So as you
that's
saw,
cool that the coins have a limited supply cap as well. I don't know if you mentioned
1 billion.
that. Yeah, 1
billion. Yeah.
So basically everything starts at a set price. So until they launch, they're just in the ether or something, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. So we can go look at it right now.
No. So you can buy these tokens, Will, before they hit the bonding curve, right? It works very similarly to Pump Fun, right? The 200 million pulse cap that Z mentioned, that's their limit for the bonding curve, right? I forgot what the bonding curve was for Pump Fun, but that's it for Pulse Chain. So you could buy it prior to that, but once the bonding curve is hit for Pump Tires, in this case 200 million pulse, that's when that pulse is burned, and then the actual liquidity pool on Pulse X is created, right? So that's the difference between Fun and Tires, is that this actually burns Pulse X before the liquidity pool is created on Pulse X, right?
There you go. Thank you, Jay.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So overall, let's do some quick maths. So
Pump Fun doesn't burn Solana.
Yes, right? Pump Fun send the fees to the developers, to the guys that like created it, right? So and for the folks at home, from what I understand, there is no official Pump.Tires X account, or there is no like social media account for Pump.Tires. So
that's correct.
From what I understand, all the ones that you see that exist out there are scams or not real or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah, there you go. Right up at the top of the screen. Zenith, if you could wave your mouse around that. Warning, Pump.Tires hasn't and will not have official social media accounts. Anyone pretending to be Pump.Tires on social media is an imposter, which sounds a lot like the verbiage of some persons that we might have heard of speak similar things before. But I'm sure there's many people in the world that say this sort of thing, but it's in line with the certain ethos of certain characters and things. So keep this in mind, everybody. If you see people on Twitter or on X or on Telegram that are saying, hey, I'm the Pump.Tires admin or something, like, they don't have social media accounts, so probably a scam. Stay away. That's what I got.
For the record, we have 187 tokens that have actually launched off Pump.Tires, and I'm pretty sure this thing is only. Yes, they actually hit the bonding curve, and then they were shifted over to Pulse X. Outside of that, there's a lot of tokens on here, though. So, like, for instance, we have 693 pages. We got 12 tokens per page. That's 8,316 projects that are still on Pump.Tires. So, to bring it over here, we got... This is from Gold Key. He was actually tracking some of the stuff and some of the stats when it first launched. So on day 3, we had made 3,724 tokens. 93 of them graduated or went like hit the bonding curve and then went to PulseX. And the total pulse burn for the time was 7.7 billion pulse.
It's pretty good.
So yeah, that's a lot of pulse. It actually is I think we actually went slightly deflationary on the chart for that day. So pumped out tires is having a real effect very, very quickly. Where is it? Here we go.
You know why that's good? That's good because technically speaking, Pulse Chain is an inflationary token. Like technically speaking. But now, imagine how much of a deflationary pressure tires can put on the ecosystem if this thing really starts taking off, right? Because every single time a project hits that bonding curve, 200 million pulse, burned. Right? Burned away forever.
$450,000 in less than a week.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good for price.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on a small scale in a week. What if this catches steam? What if this catches steam the way that Pump Fund caught steam? Right? Imagine how much of a deflationary pressure that would put on Pulse Chain. Right? Bit of speculation.
There's a question from Just Live. He said, how much capital do you need to start a S-Coin? And I think the current price is about 60K USD at current pulse price, because it requires 200 million pulse to hit the bonding curve. I did a quick math on it, and my calculator came out to 10,720, but that doesn't sound right, especially considering I think the market cap on a lot of the launch coins is like 47.2.
Yeah.
But that's not the important part. The important part here...
I think his question is, how much do you need to... So, look, I haven't played... Yeah, I haven't played with pump tires, right? But I know in Pump Fund...
Oh, that's what he means.
Yeah, in Pump Fund, you are able to provide like however much initial liquidity you want to provide for the coin you're starting, right? And I'm going to assume if it's a copy-paste that it's the exact same thing, right? You like however much you want to provide the initial liquidity, then you can provide however much you want, right? Like you don't have to provide the 200 million pulse as starting liquidity, right? That's the limit for it to hit the bonding curve for then the coin to be released onto Pulse X, right? Not the initial capital that you need to invest in order to actually start the coin.
True. Very true. Gentlemen, I apologize for doing this, but I am going to drive here for a little bit. We're already at pretty much an hour and a half. I want to make sure we get through a lot of our important talking points.
Go for it.
I do have I think this is an excellent tweet thread. This is from Gerardo.pulse over on X. He actually has a thread talking about a lot of the stuff going on here and the implications for it. So first up, we got RH coins just went underwent an ecosystem-wide supply shock in the last few days. We had Hex staking from the OA account. We had the incentive token rate being demolished. And then we also had pumped out tires actually started to put deflationary pressure on Pulse Chain itself. So to start off, about 450K burned in the last less than a week. Look into pumped out tires. Created by Gerardo. Yep, here we go. So average daily burn is about 737 million pulse. Contract balance is 8.11 billion. That's about $500,000. So that's what he's talking about here. This is helping offset the validators because Pulse is inflationary to help keep the invalidators online.
Yep.
Outside of that, PulseX, any coin that graduates from PulseX immediately gets deployed on V2. Since PulseX burns PulseX with every swap on it, any added volume directly benefits PulseX and its scarcity. Not only does this, PulseX doesn't inflate as well, it only burns. So PulseX is actually getting an increased burn rate as well. On top of that, we had the OA. So the OA recently staked a massive amount of Hex, and this was effectively the monetary policy decision for the Hex ecosystem that RH Max was talking about earlier. So now that 62% of all Hex is staked on each chain respectively, this means that the yield is only 5.9%. This is a drop from 36.9%, which means that all your T-shares are going to be paying probably about like 6 times less. So it used to be about 7 hex per T-share. It's probably going down to about like 1.25, 1.5 now. So large hex holders can continue to do weekly and monthly rolling stakes will now have less hex to dump on your head when their stakes come due. So what it's talking about is that this is going to reduce the amount of output of hex, because remember, hex is inflationary. So people that had rolling stakes trying to gain a little bit extra and extra so they can wait and try to time the top of the market and then immediately sell, it means that they're going to have fewer hex to sell at the top of the market when that comes. And then finally, incentive token. We have RH's incentive token is used for to reward LP farmers. Ever since the launch, the rate was 1 incentive per second. This got 10x down all the way to 0.1 incentive token per second. So that pretty much we went from 10% down to 1%. And we saw that a lot of the liquidity pairs, shoot, I'm on the wrong screen. This shows that a lot of the liquidity pairs dropped massively. So you'll see like down here at the bottom, these are the ones that I'm most familiar with as well, which is Hex Pulse, Incentive Token Pulse, Incentive Token Pulse X. The APRs are now 2.7, 4.8, 3.0. Like these used to be double-digit APRs easily. So this is how a lot of people were earning the incentive token. And as you can see up here, incentive token inflation down to 0.1 incentive per second. So that massively cut it. So that gets us to, okay, cool. That's what's going on, but what does it mean? Well, it means potentially this. This is from our good buddy RH Max. He says that this is theoretically to help prime the whole ecosystem to get ready to pump. So hex and incentive yield went down massively. We love juicy yield, but with reduced inflation, we could see less sell pressure. Less sell pressure means easier to pump. Is this signaling a teleportation to the moon, supply, shock, and awe? This is really the name of the game going on right now with all of the news this week, which is that it's affecting the supply side economics. Remember, this is determined by supply and demand, so we're already locking up one side of it to help the other half as well. The OA isn't staking, but locking up 555. This means that more of the hex is locked up permanently. Again, reduced supply coming out, supply squeeze. We also got LP. You are now not incentivized to provide liquidity on PulseX. If the APR is really bad, it means it's going to be a lot easier to eat impermanent loss, which means the risk to reward ratio or the calculation that everyone did to get in those pools has drastically changed. And now it's a lot more risky and a lot less reward to stay in those pools. And remember, price is determined not by market cap, but by liquidity. If you have lower liquidity, it's easier to move price. And then here's what we talked about earlier. Think of Pulse Chain as a country for a moment. What strengthens a currency or asset? Tightening supply, lower inflation, incentives to hold and not sell. And all of the news has talked about everything there. Finally, we got some timing stuff. Time in the market is better than timing the market. Positions, entries, and exits. Crypto has historically followed the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. So bull market peaks, 13, 17, 21. Accumulation and expansion, 15, 19, 23. You might notice that it's the current year of 2025. And that is 4 years after 2021.
Yes,
I know
sir.
you guys are probably tired of us hearing us talk about the 4-year cycle, but it is the dominant macro effect that goes on right now, and I do believe it is still absolutely in play. So to finish out Max's tweet, he says, if we are in the expansion phase, these hex and pulse chain moves could be critical and calculated monetary shift, tightening supply as the market gears up for its next cycle. If market forces bring high demand, price appreciation may very well become the main event. Are you paying attention now? There you go.
Yep.
There
Yeah, and
we go.
this is another one of the reasons why I am in support of pump tires. I know Z has a core ethos kind of issue with it, right? Which I totally understand. But John Boy mentioned this when I streamed with him in reference to another stream that Crispy Man did. And what Crispy Man said was, when RH created pump tires, I don't think he was talking to me. And I think that's probably the message that I can take home. And I think that, Zenith could probably take home is that Richard didn't talk to us, the core maxis, right? We're still going to hold strong to our convictions and be in the core assets. But you guys also know that Richard is very astute at marketing, right? He made a lot of money in sales as an entrepreneur before he ever made money in crypto. And so he knows exactly just how powerful the attention of the meme coin space is, right? That's why if he is the guy behind Pump Tires, I mean, why not take a page out of Solana's, book, right? The Pump Fund book, because you could argue that really what brought Solana back from the grave was Bonk, was the saga, was Pump Fund, right? Because that's where the market share of attention came from during 2023 and 2024. It was a lot of memes, right? It was a lot of memes. It was a lot of AI, but mostly it was a lot of memes. And so look at what that did to the price of Solana. And so being the astute marketer that Richard is, like, why not take advantage of the marketing of memes, right? If you can't, if as it stands on the demand side, right, the demand side economics, the altcoin space is suffering because of, right, tight monetary policy, not good for risk assets, then what Richard theoretically can do is help on the supply side economics of things, right? And the fact that Pump Tires is introducing a 200 million burn pressure per project that hits the bonding curve to offset the inflationary nature of Pulse Chain, right? Because you have to pay the validators, then that's a good thing. Everything that happened over the past few days was on the supply side of things, whether it came to introducing that incredibly deflationary pressure on Pulse Chain, right? Whether it's making the T shares more expensive because of the crazy amount of staking that happened on the Hex side, both on Pulse Chain and on Ethereum, and also an incentive, right? Like slashing the incentive token rewards by like 90%. All of that happened on the supply side of things. And as it stands, it's the one that Richard has the most control over. And so, do you have to engage in the meme coin space and pump tires? You don't. You certainly don't have to. But understanding it is important because you can have an appreciation for it, because you know that at the end of the day, it's going to have positive price pressure on the core assets, right? Not just on price, but again, on the supply side of things. So whether you agree with memes or not isn't really the question that you need to ask yourself. At the end of the day, the question that's more important is what Pump Tires doing for the ecosystem as a whole good? And the fact that it's pushing like that it's introducing that deflationary pressure on Pulse Chain is a good thing at the end of the day. Right. So
it's like you shouldn't complain if you see a gas station open up that sells cigarettes and liquor. It's like, yes, there are people that like to buy cigarettes and liquor. You don't necessarily have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But somebody's going to. And if you're in a small town that doesn't have any alcohol and doesn't have any sort of reason for people who smoke to stop in and grab something, then you're going to miss out on a huge, massive market share when people drive through the town and they look to make their stop at the gas station to refuel on the things that they like, So
yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yes.
As the store owner, right? Richard's the store owner in this case.
Yeah.
He might be selling alcohol and cigarettes. He doesn't have to consume the alcohol and cigarettes, but it's certainly good for business. Right? He might not agree with alcohol and cigarettes, but it's good for business. It's going to funnel a lot more customers into there. Right?
Yeah.
Z, what do you got?
Jay, I think you did have a very valid criticism for me and what I guess my mentality on this whole thing. But I think it's kind of a twofold thing, which is that there's two sides of the camp when it comes to actually trying to get things done. It's very easy to be a political or like a commentator online, and you can be very like argumentatively and like ethos pure driven, and you can argue that like DeFi should be like pure and it should never touch centralized exchanges and stuff. But then there's also the practicality side of the argument, which is like you got to understand that it's kind of like a football game, and it's like the ball exists on the field somewhere. You cannot instantly teleport it to an end zone that you want to be the outcome. You got to move it 1 yard at a time.
Yes.
So I understand that we are where we are and we're trying to get to different areas, but at the same time, it's Richard Hart, I think, is a bit of an enigma of a personality, so to speak, because he tries to talk about like DeFi, like ethos and a lot of the fundamentals, talking about like how self-custody is king. Don't ever like give your crypto to other people for like yield and stuff like that. And then also talks about like the whole scamming thing of like a lot of other cryptos are a scam, but this one isn't. You shouldn't get in the habit of trusting people like me, but this time you should. It's stuff like that. So when I see this kind of a thing, it just seems very out of character for Richard Hart. But at the same time, everyone does talk about how he's like playing 5D chess and stuff, which, I mean, there you go. Idea for the thumbnail tonight, which is like this, theoretically, these are all calculated moves. I do see the mathematics behind the move, which is that we're adding functionality to Pulse Chain, Pulse X, and then also modifying the way that incentive is being distributed, and Hex. If anything, personally, you and I talked about this a good bit on Friday. I'm less concerned about Pumped Out Tires. Pumped Out Tires makes perfect sense. Pumped Out Tires is pretty much a fork of another successful project in a theoretically better environment and ecosystem, so it should attract people that are into that sort of thing to come here and come play in greener pastures. Granted, it also requires you to know about it, get over here, figure out how to do all the bridging stuff, but that's neither here nor there. One of the things that actually concerns me the most is the Hex staking, because I was under the impression that the OA is not going to move or do anything. It has the ability to do so, theoretically, but there is kind of like this unspoken agreement that it was not going to do anything. The source that I'm going to cite for this one is in the Highest of Stakes movie. There is a specific scene where Richard Hart is asked about the OA, and there's one of the investigators or the journalist who's actually looking into the OA. He's like, there's all these wallets, all these things just holding Hex, but like, where does it go? What does it do? Who controls it? We don't have answers to these. But Richard Hart's answer to that was, I believe it was like, quote, y'all can stop fucking the OA. It's not doing anything. So it
is not doing anything. So
at
like
the time when he said that, it is absolutely doing something. It just staked.
It has staked in the past as well. The last time it staked was right before the price went up. So it has done this before. Like it's not the first time that the OA has staked before.
The magnitude is just different, but I get where Zenith is coming from, right?
Yeah.
If like Richard explicitly stated that in the movie, stop fucking the OA because it's not going to do anything. Staking is doing something. It's not.
Here's the thing:
doing nothing. It's doing something.
If you go to the old Hex website, it says 36.9 APR annually, like minimum. That math absolutely just changed with that move that just happened now, because now it's down closer to 6% APR, which means that the fundamentals here are changing. This is something that I think Jay and I talk about, which is that when you're trying to create stability and confidence on a chain, TVL is a very important metric because it shows investors that the money is not leaving and that the math is not changing. Like, please go for it.
Yeah. So 3.69 is not the minimum. 3.69 is the maximum APR that is created. So as soon as these Hex stakes end, the T-share rate will skyrocket, which will not allow more than 3.69% Hex to be created within this year. So like right now, our inflation rate's at like 1.8 or something. It's not always at exactly 3.69, right? And this is
the
probably
inflation. The inflation rate is always 3.69%. That is part of the hard code of Hex. What I'm referring to is that the OA made up 90% of the supply. So the way that math works is that the inflation has to be paid out somewhere. Because the OA is 90% of the supply, it means that 10% of the supply is available to receive that 3.69% inflation. So if that 10% is receiving that 3.69 inflation, which is calculated by 100% of the supply, not just the 10% that's able to be staked, then that means that the effective APR is 36.9 because it's 3.69 times 10. What the OA has done is it has taken that 36.9 APY and absolutely chopped it.
So
Danny Boy does have a good
that
comment
doesn't
here.
mean there's going
that
to be more Hex being created. The same amount of Hex that was created will be created.
The same amount of Hex that will be created will always be the same. What
Correct.
I'm referring to is the
We're on the same
distribution of that created Hex. The ratio of where that's going is now greatly altered because the OA has now gotten in the game. Originally, a lot of the OG Hex math was based off the OA not being in the game. Now that the OA is in the staking game, it drastically alters the math for the average retail investor.
100%.
until those stakes end. So if the OA kept like if the OA did more than a 7-day stake, if the OA Quattro Cinco'd those
fucked.
right, but they're
The
short.
OA did Quattro Cinco.
Oh, how much?
Oh yeah.
How much?
I don't know the exact number, but that was one of the things that was in RH Max's tweet.
All right. Well, now there's less hex being created. So it's like where it would go to retail investors, it's now going to the origin address. So it's like it takes away from the inflation that we would be receiving. I'm curious to see also how this sort of stuff affects the actuator protocol. That's something that I think is going to be very, very interesting. Because that was something I was thinking about as it happened. But it's essentially like the same amount of hex that's going to be created is always going to be created, whether it goes to the origin address or it goes to the people that are staking that are not the origin address. That is determined by how much of how much everyone is staking everywhere. So you are absolutely correct that now there is going to be less hex divvied out to normal stakers and more hex going to the origin address. So I agree with you on that point.
The comment from Dace, if we can pull that up again. He says,
Sure.
It makes it more beneficial for the retail investor and less so for the long-term staker / career dumper. So I'm going to try to understand this. So it makes it more beneficial for retail investors. How? But I fully understand that theoretically the point of doing the giant 7-day stake was to cut down on the amount of yield that is given to people that have rolling stakes. I understand that. But at the same time, though, it still does affect everybody the same amount, regardless of if you have a rolling stake or a Quattro Cinco, depending on how long those stakes are active. That's the thing. For me, the thing that I'm really trying to get to on this one is that it's I told you guys this in the green room before we went live. I don't have all the math worked out on this just yet. I don't have all of the on-chain data. What I do have is an understanding of the fundamental analysis and how this move has changed that based on confidence of investors about what the OA does, what its purpose is, because it now puts in play the biggest whale you could possibly imagine in the ecosystem. They are active. They are making moves that will affect you, when previously they thought they were permanently dormant. That's the point I'm getting at here. I don't have the math worked out yet. I want to get it worked out. I will work on that. And I definitely want to talk to C3 Works because he's probably going to have a really good take on this one, considering his entire project is hex stakes. So it's like that stuff matters. Like if we talk about trying to build the bond market, this drastically affects the bond market. Like Jay mentioned, this is monetary policy at work on hex. So there you go. That's the biggest complaint that I have with this one. I'm very happy to be wrong. If this is a good thing, please explain it to me. And I don't mind if you explain it to me like I'm a third grader.
Should,
it's okay.
I'm going to try and get Crispy and Actuator on the same.
That would be killer. Let's try to do that.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to do. I'm going to reach out. So Crispy and Bill, if you guys are listening right now, I'm going to be reaching out to you on Telegram, Twitter, sending owls to your house, Hogwarts style, and perhaps even a telegram or something. So I'll be hitting you guys up, and we'll see if we can get some sort of answer. You know, they might have already covered this on one of Crispy's streams or something like that, because Crispy is literally nothing but the data man. So I'm willing to bet that these questions, these concerns have already been addressed or already been answered or something. But
True. By the way, shout out to Hexkin Lost in Asia in the chat and Danny Boy. They both have some very good comments on this one. The most recent one from Hexkin, he says, Zenith, this has always been the case, and that's why our cult exists. We trust RH/the OA to make these moves while not selling. That's true. That's the other half of this argument as well, which is that they can make moves to affect the APR and APY, but it really will not affect price from the supply side, except for affecting the available supply of people who are already incentivized to sell. So I guess step 2 of my complaint here, which is the more valid complaint, which Hexagon, you're exactly right on here, which is that the real deviation on this one is going to be if the OA starts selling. If the OA sells any of the yield it gets, then that's going to be a big change. If it just stakes, holds on to it, and never sells, then a lot of my points here are probably moot. But I'm just, until it happens, we don't know.
Yeah. And Dace has reaffirmed that it has happened before. So this is not an unusual It's not an unheard of sort of action or something. This is something that like I was moderately aware had happened before. There's something I want to point out though too is, you know, it's kind of funny is this really only affects the staker class. Everybody who has Hex Liquid, it's like, oh, Hexagon's not affected. You know, it's just kind of like that funny total alternative to what we had anticipated. It's like, oh, the origin address is staking. I don't care. I'm all liquid, right? I actually do care very much because I'm mostly staked, but like I'm not concerned. It's not something like over half of my portfolio is like totally just staked out. So it's like I don't know. I think that things will go fine. Another thing that's that I want to talk about to pivot off of your point, Zenith, is the value that we as human beings should put on expectations versus agreements and having expectations for other people to do things. So like we all have an inference that Richard's never going to sell Hex, that the OA doesn't do a whole lot of stuff going on. It's very important for us to realize that like it is not realistic for us to expect other people to do things. Because we get, you know, like this crazy dramatic move or something like this. It's like we all kind of operate under the idea that nothing changes, nothing happens. Richard Hart does good things, you know, Richard Hart never does bad things or something like that. It's like it would benefit us to take this expectation out of our heads and just understand like he is a human being, much like everyone else. Or the origin address operator is a human being, or a collective of human beings, or perhaps it's just an AI script bot that's like, if this then that, you know, when price does this at this time, then stake this long. Who knows, right? It could be a machine pre-programmed. It could be a person making it could be a person making active decisions. But the important thing to remember is like we should not expect Vitalik to do work for us. We should not expect Satoshi to do work for us. We shouldn't expect Michael Saylor to keep buying up the price of Bitcoin. If we start taking these things and ingraining them into our and you know, we're all going to be guilty of it. It's inevitable that we're going to get to this point. But like at some point Michael Saylor is going to stop buying Bitcoin, right? And then he's like, MicroStrategies is going to sell. At some point, Vitalik is going to need to pay for his cat's toenail clipping surgery or whatever the hell. And he's going to have to dump all of his Ethereum or something like that, right? At some point, Warren Buffett is going to sell Berkshire Hathaway to his son, and his son's going to run it into the ground or something like that. Remember, all this is not financial advice. I'm just like, I'm playing the game here. It's the important thing to remember is to not expect people to do things and to not like base our decisions off of future expectations that we have for other people. It does kind of throw a lot of us for a loop here, and it's justifiable because like, whoa, origin address doing something. I remember when I first heard about it, I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know what this means. Well shit. And then like there was like it was literally as I was getting off of the fucking plane from El Salvador, I was like, I landed, and then I see in the DRT chat, it's like, hey, you guys want to do a stream today? Richard Hart just, or the origin address just staked, and you know, fucking, it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna drive home talking about this today. So it's like, there's some crazy shit going on, but the important thing is to remember that like we don't know what people are going to do. We're always going to be surprised whenever we have expectations of something in our mind as opposed to agreements. If I say to Zenith, like, hey, Zenith, do you agree to be my friend and to show up to work at 8 o'clock in the morning? And Z says, yes, Will, I agree to show up to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's when I'll be there, and yada, yada. It's way different than like the boss person being like, hey, you're supposed to show up at 8 o'clock. I expected you to be here. And then the person's like, you know, I don't know, my wife exploded and like I couldn't make it into work on time or something, right? Like
Spontaneously combusted.
Yeah.
Yes, expectations. There's this really good talk, and I wish I could remember who did it, but there's a gentleman who talks about the difference between expectations and agreements. And if you form an expectation with somebody, like an unspoken expectation is just a premeditated resentment. So like if you have expectations for things as opposed to agreements, it's like comparing slavery to sovereignty. You know, when two people agree to something, then we're engaging in a I have say over this, you have say over this, we're both in agreement here. If one person has expectations over another person, then it's like it's a one-way direction, a one-way glass thing. So this is just some kind of meta analysis that I want to pass on to the audience, and and pass on to the folks at home and stuff.
Well, I don't
That's
think
enough
you're
of my
going to
TED
get
talk,
much.
though.
I don't think you're going to get much disagreement from us there, Will, because I remember, I believe it was sometime last week when Z was on RH Max's channel. Remember, Z? There was a conversation of price going up because people were expecting the OA to do something.
Talking about the SAC wallets,
right?
like,
The SAC wallet. And the argument that me and Z kind of presented during that show was like, look, man, if we are believers, if we do have such strong conviction in Pulse Chain that we think it is the best product out there, then price is going to go up because people also believe that it is the best product up there. If price is going up because you're expecting the OA to deploy the SAC funds, then price is going up because the OA deploys the SAC funds and people are getting FOMO'd. Nobody believed it was the best product except us. The only reason price went up is because the OA deployed the SAC funds and people FOMO'd in, right?
It's forceful.
And so
it doesn't last, right?
Yeah, we were making an argument that if we do all believe that Pulse Chain is the best thing since sliced bread, then the product is going to attract people regardless of what the OA does, right? And so you shouldn't expect the OA to deploy the SAC funds. I am not going to look the gift horse in the mouth and say I'm going to complain that price went up because the SAC funds were deployed. I'm not going to look the gift horse in the mouth because now there's this significant deflationary pressure on Pulse Chain, right? I'm not gonna complain about that, right? But like you said, don't expect anything. Even if in the past Richard was like Z pointed out, right, in the highest of stakes, the OA is not gonna do anything. Yeah, he said that, right? But obviously, the OA did something now, right? And so I understand that we have a lot of these preconceived notions about what Richard is going to do, what he's not going to do, what his core values, right? What the ethos is, right? And we can certainly go ahead and believe that, but at the end of the day, you also have to have that side of you that's pragmatic, right? And thinking, okay, yes, can I trust Richard or can I trust the OA to be a benevolent actor and not to dump on my head? And up until this point, I have very little reason to believe that they're going to be bad actors. But there has to be that side of you, right? You have to have the bullish and the bearish side of you thinking, okay, things can still happen in the future that is completely antithetical to what the OA and Richard has done up until now, right? You also have to have that bearish side. You also have to have that other side. Because if you don't, then stuff like this happening, it's going to throw you for a loop, right? It's going to shake your foundation. And so you have to have both cases. And no expectations, right? No expectations at all. No expectations, even on the point of the OA is never going to do anything. Because it might just change its mind. And that's just me being very pragmatic.
Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts on this, but nothing I can really form cohesively right now. I understand the sentiment that Richard Hart does not work for us and that I shouldn't expect anything, but I also think that's kind of foolhardy, especially when it comes to investing, which is that we're putting our hard-earned money at risk for potential gains. So just throwing it out there in a game where you believe that someone could theoretically and is likely to try to attack it just seems foolhardy and very not considering risk. And the reason that I specifically look at Pulse Chain having what I thought was going to be more stability than what the actions of this week have shown me is because I've been following a lot of the stuff that Richard Hart puts out. Not just him, but also the legal arguments that he has made in court, which is that a lot of the products are finished products upon launch, that they will not be updated, that there is no further progress to come. You should expect nothing more. But what we've seen is, in addition to stuff, like the incentive token ratio got changed. The pumped out tires was launched. Like, these are things that are happening that are different than the message that and the actions that have been taken in the past. Because remember, Richard Hart took all the websites offline. He took everything offline to say that it was completely decentralized. This is more of a more centralization move than a decentralization move, in my opinion. I'm not saying this move is bad. I'm just saying it's not actively. I don't think it's actively harming Hexkins. I just think it's reducing some of the incentives from being good to slightly less good. Like, it's just taking your APY down a little bit, and it's getting a little more uncertainty out there. Again, nothing has been sold to the best of my knowledge. Nothing has actually attacked any Hexkins. It's just movements that are happening that are changing the situation on the ground and changing the math, which we got to just redo and figure out at this point.
I'm gonna play a bit of. I'm always trying to play
hit me,
devil's
hit me,
advocate,
yeah.
right?
I got some as well when you're done, Jay. We'll stack up against Z.
Goes really good points there, Z. But again, right? So these moves, like you said, what he was doing prior and during the litigation against the SEC, right? I'm considering the context of everything, and within the context of a Joe Biden presidency of an SEC headed by Gary Gensler, you had to be that kind of calculated. But now that you have a little bit, I wouldn't say like you have the ability to now act with careless abandon. You don't, right? You still have to be careful. But I think now the moves that Richard is making, he's able to be a little bit more. I don't want to say careless, but he's able to make these kinds of moves that he would not have been able to do if it was still Gary Gensler running the SEC, if it was still Joe Biden for the next 4 years. Right. And so I think he's allowing himself to be a little bit more fluid with these moves, right? Because now he has the freedom to do so. Again, still within the bounds of being careful, being calculated, because like just because we have a DJT in the White House, and just because we have a much more friendly SEC and a much more friendly Congress and Senate towards crypto, doesn't mean you can act with careless abandon. But he's a little bit, he has the ability to be a bit more fluid with his moves, right? Again, that's just me trying to play devil's advocate, right? I don't know how the man is thinking. Is just me speculating. Wait, Will, go ahead.
I was gonna say the changes with pump.tires and the incentive inflation. Incentive inflation has changed a few times. Not only from the number of people that are using the farms and stuff, but also actually that's the only thing that I understand. But the point is, like, the incentive inflation always could have changed. It simply didn't for whatever reason, but like the functionality for it to change was always there. Like, I don't read code, I don't understand all this stuff, so it does come as a bit of a surprise to me to hear that, like, oh, the APRs are dropping. But I remember back in the very beginning, the APRs were fucking like skyrocket, crazy, super duper stupid high, right? That's the percentage. That's not the amount of That's not the amount of incentive token that is printed per minute. But the fact that it could change means that it always could have changed. And I think that there's somebody who has talked about that in the past. It's not something that entirely surprises me that the incentive ratio changes. The as far as like the pump.tires thing launching, it's like it's a new thing that has launched on the chain. I presume that Richard is the one that launched pump.tires, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
It is another thing.
Can we bring up Dace's comment here? Like me and Dace agree on this wholeheartedly, right? Richard was a flamboyantly outraged marketer when he thought it was best, incognito when he thought it was best, and now he's changing the tone and messaging again. So at the end of the day, like, this is the stance that I'm going to take, right? You have to be adaptable, right? You can have strong convictions, but you have to be adaptable, right? You don't want to be on the receiving end of the bad side of Darwinism, right? And unfortunately, if you want to get the market share of attention, you're going to have to be adaptable to what's going to get the market share of attention. Right? I know that digs into the sides of very strong, like, core foundational decentralization type of people, like that kind of ethos, right? I know it really digs into their side, but you gotta adapt, man. Like you really do, because we could sit here and complain about these things, and I'm not saying we're complaining. We can sit here and have a conversation about these things, but at the end of the day, what happened has happened. You have to adapt, right? Otherwise,
I fully agree with you. That's something we've talked about this whole time, which is that
Yeah.
it's like you and I are saying, which is that we're going to assume the trend is going to hold until we get confirmation that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, this, in my opinion, is confirmation that the trend has changed. So I'm not saying I'm not going to adapt. I'm absolutely going to adapt. Like, I'll just go ahead and tell you guys right now. Yeah, I pulled all of my Pulse X farms. I had a decent chunk, probably like 20% of my bags in Pulse X farms, trying to get incentive token.
100%.
Oh yeah, pulled all of it.
Yeah.
I'm reacting to the incentives that are being presented to me.
Yep.
When it comes
As
to
you
the Hex.
should.
Correct. That's the other thing, which
not
is like trying to
financial
understand where the incentives are aligning, and not just for me, but for everyone, including Richard Hart. So what are his incentives? What is he incentivized to do right now? I just think it's odd that the arguments he's made and the moves that he's made appear to be changing in ways that almost appear contradictory. So obviously, yes, we don't have Richard Hart streaming right now, so we can't like ask him these things live and try to figure out what's going on. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to pay attention to the actions and understand why these actions are being taken and how they are going to affect me and the rest of the market so that I can make the best moves that I possibly can. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying this is odd. I was operating under a different set of assumptions based on the trend that had been established. But obviously it's changing, so now we have to change as well.
Now we operate on a different set of assumptions, and those assumptions can change on a snap of a finger like that, right? Yep. So, I think the take home message is you have to be adaptable as an investor, right?
Yeah.
Because the Richard of yesterday is not the Richard of today, and won't be the Richard of tomorrow.
And you shouldn't count on it. You shouldn't count on Richard anyways, right? Like that's the whole point here is like fucking no one's coming to save you other than yourself. You run the code, you execute the orders, you figure out, is this product the thing that I want to buy? Do I want the cigarettes and the alcohol, or do I want to buy moringa tree seeds and plant them in my garden? Shout out to Moondog, fucking talking about moringa trees, getting me on that homesteading kick and things. But like the whole point is become a sovereign individual. Don't rely on fucking Richie Sack Daddy, some fucking person sweeping in on a golden chariot with like hex clad wheels and something coming in to save you. It's like, no, he's not gonna fucking save you, right?
Oh, believe me, I'm right there with you. I have been defending the non-Sack Daddy reliant argument, and people have been fighting me on it. Which is like, I go on the shows like RHBX, and people are like, yeah, I can't wait for the Sack wallet to like really pump it. And I'm like, don't expect it. Yeah, if you need the Sack wallet to pump this is not a good product. Exactly. If you need it to pump your bags, you're just expecting someone to just give you free money. That's stupid. Like, why would they do that? What is the incentive structure there?
I do like that. Well, I don't know if it's still like this, but I'm just thinking of like all of the HTT tokens I was able to pull out like from my actuator protocol. I'm very curious to see what this does to actuator protocol, because it totally changes.
Gotta get Bill on the call.
Yeah, totally changes the ratios as to like what happens now. Because if the APRs are going down, anyone who pulled HTTs out before this happened looking pretty fucking good right now. Anyone who did not, I don't know. We'll find out. Depends on what everyone's goals are and everything of that sort. Before we, because we're going a little bit over time here, do we want to touch on what's going on with Tornado Cash super quick before we hop on into final round of chat shoutouts and closeouts?
We can. I was going to rapid fire the last two Richard Hart points that I had.
Okay,
they're more governmental legal side. So can I get a screen share, please? All right, from Richard Hart. This came out February 3rd. Thank you, President Trump, for improving the world. From Reuters, lawyers at the SEC have been told they need to seek permission from the politically appointed leadership before formally launching probes. Two sources briefed on the matter said in a marked change in procedure that could slow down investigations. There you go. That's number one change. Number two change. We have the SEC oust top litigator who battled with crypto giants. The person in question here was Jorge Tenrero. He was actually one of the people that was originally assigned to the Richard Hart SEC case. So this is actually developments for Richard Hart. So here we have from yours truly. Yes, the SEC did reassign. For more information, go check out Nuclear Herbs. He's been on top of this stuff. So if you want more, obviously, go check out Nuclear Herbs. He's got the best stuff all the time. Yeah, the original release on July 31st, 2023. And if you go down to the people on it, you see right here, Jorge Tenrero and David Hirsch of the Crypto Asset Cyber Unit, Registered Supervision. Yep, that's what it is. He was there. He's no longer there. And additionally, about 50 other SEC employees were reassigned to do other things. So things are, they're moving. But yep, here, just confirmation of the news source. We got investment news. SEC reassigns top litigator behind crypto lawsuits. Boom, there you go. And finally, we do have this, which Will was alluding to. Tornado Cash developer Alexei Pertsev released from jail to prepare for appeal. He was sentenced to 64 months in prison for money laundering, but the man is out now. Here's what you need to know. He was released on Friday after a Dutch court suspended his detention on the condition of his being electronically monitored. He was sentenced to 64 months back in 2024. He'll now work on an appeal to fight for justice, according to his ex-post. If we have a good picture. There it is. Yeah, there it is.
Hey.
Says freedom is priceless, but my freedom cost a lot of money. My house arrest was only possible thanks to the work of my lawyers who were paid from your donations. My fight is not over, and I will continue. My fight is not over yet for a final confident victory. I still need your help. Please support our fight here. Yep, there he is. The man's free.
Yep. Good news, because as far as I know, Roman Storm hasn't even gone to trial yet. So if Alexei's been freed, maybe the punishment is just time served, and that's it. Right, and that's all he'll have to suffer. Right, don't punish the man for developing code.
Yeah, very, very true.
Right, especially if the punishment was due to other people misusing his code for nefarious reasons.
Hang on, keep that screen share up. I'm gonna scan that QR code and I'm gonna see if that pulls up a fucking GoFundMe or some shit right now. SetAlexFree.nl. Let's take a look. Have you guys actually taken a look at this? Oh, wow, that's weird. DNS probe finish NX domain. Reload. That's strange. I'm not getting anything from that little QR code that we just had pulled up. That's fucking hilarious. All right, so don't scan that QR code because you just get the fucking error. That's silly. I was gonna comment on his picture of like him, throwing up the watch, doing the Instagram pose there. I was gonna make fun of him a little bit, but like homeboy has been going through some shit, so I can afford to let him slide on going up there with the I don't know if it's a Rolex or not, but on his little rolly pose there. So support Alexei Pertsev. Yep. Hey, good way to make money. Support this, or excuse me, not good way to make money. Good way to send money or something is you follow this little thing and you send them some money. I don't necessarily recommend doing it, but if you want to, this is the way to do it. So there you guys go. Remember, none of the stuff that we talk about on this show is financial advice. Did you have thoughts or something you wanted to take us through this website, Zenith?
Nope, this is just the one that's linked from his Twitter. So
okay.
Yep, Alex Persev on X. If you want him, go follow him. If you want to donate, there you go. There's the link.
Excellent. Cool. So this is one of the guys who created Tornado Cash or something. He's connected to it in some way, somehow.
Yep. Keep in mind, these are foreign court proceedings, so we'll try to follow them the best we can. But also at the same time, I try to be a legal analyst of U.S. law and U.S. court procedure, so I'm unfamiliar with how the EU likes to do things. I will do my best to talk to Nuclear Herbs and ChatGPT about it so we can keep up to date with all of it, though. Outside of that, though, speaking of potential courts, we do have an update on something I know everyone's been dying to hear about.
Yes. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep, it's back. It's back. All right, so here we go. Haley Welch, the Hawk to a Girl, posts and then deletes a podcast with crypto influencers, and everyone's guessing what the heck is going on. So, yes, here we go. From Nick O'Neill, leaked the full Haley Welch Hawk to a podcast. It was up, and then it went down. This guy here is one of the major, I think he's the owner of the FaZe Bank, whatever gaming clan thing. He brought two of his crypto devs or two crypto folks that he trusts onto the podcast, and I've watched a little bit of it at this point. I haven't got through the whole thing. But yeah, she talks about how it's just a wild ride. Things are going crazy. And they made a little joke about how she took a long nap after the terrible Twitter X space when CoffeeZilla got on there and was like, yo, why you scamming people and stuff. So allegedly, she also had her her lawyer in the room. This is what I could find on the guy. I think his name is Christian Barker, but he really only has Instagram and LinkedIn. So trying to do more investigation on that. But as it stands right now, yep, Hawk Tua Girl is making moves. So we should be on the lookout to see if something's going on there. But there is also...
Got to give the folks what they want, the drama.
This is true. This is true. But if you also want to keep up with the saga on... Oh, gosh, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. One sec. Boop. We do have the Jail Tua coin that launched on Pumped Out Tires. It is officially on PulseX. So we have straight Tua Jail with our picture here. Yep. All right. Let's...
You can go hang out with Ricky.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about all of this, Z?
What's crazy?
Is that nobody cares, man.
Correct. Well, I'm sure the people that lost money still care.
Aside from I was gonna say, aside from the people that lost money, you've been gone for how many weeks now? You've lost the attention.
Yeah.
Right. This is gonna resolve its way one way or the other, but like you're gone, man. You're gone from the crypto space.
Jay.
I think she's honestly gone from pop culture at this point.
Yeah. You're gone. You lost the attention. You're a Vanilla Ice. Goodbye.
A bitch talked about spitting on. It's just
how to felicitate men.
We should not be surprised that this was like a short-lived candle. The flame that burns the brightest does not last the longest. So this all of the math adds up, right? None of this shit should surprise anyone. Is my point here. It's like she had her 15 minutes. She had her little podcast. She said 30 seconds of an extraordinary thought that no one before has ever thought of. And like now she's made her money. She's done her thing. She's going on her little apology tour, right? We are exacerbating her existence by talking about it. So, congratulations, Haley. You got a little bit of the DRT clout or whatever weight that we pull around the internet by us looking at your garbage project and coin and podcasts and everything. But hey, to each their own. Sometimes this is what I try and teach people about when it comes to like, is your reputation going to bring you a super bright light that burns out quickly, or is it going to last long into like infinium? There is this isn't the kind of stuff that they that Plato writes about Socrates, and that's all that I have to say about this.
Yeah. Well, she does continue to be a source of content, which I can appreciate as a streamer who needs to talk about stuff. And there's a chance she might also get some of that. What? I'm just saying.
No, we don't need to.
I'm just saying. Also, as a legal analyst,
as
a legal analyst, there's a chance I might have more to analyze in the future if she also gets some of that SEC clout. If you know what I'm saying.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it's entirely possible, but yeah, more on this in the future.
Do you think the SEC lawyers are going to be buying Hex, or they're going to be buying Talk to a coin or whatever the hell first? Which of the two are they going to be going after?
Going after or purchasing themselves? I would not be surprised if a lot of the SEC folks are like, "Oh wow, this Hex thing is actually not too terrible. Maybe we should get in on it."
Yeah.
But to be honest, right now, I don't expect any new litigation from the SEC, as we talked about earlier with the other article. Pretty much all investigations now have to get approved from the top at this point. But the funny thing is, there's kind of no one really at the top. We have our acting chair, but outside of that, we only have Paul Atkins, who's officially on the docket with the Senate Banking Committee for his confirmation hearing, but they haven't actually scheduled it yet. The confirmation was submitted, but it has not been put on the docket yet. So we're still waiting to see on that one. And then outside of that, we did get a letter from one of the chairs over at the SEC talking about how they're going to be proceeding with how they're running the SEC going into the near future. Jay and I are going to be covering that one over on Walk the Block tomorrow. So if you're interested in going through that letter with us, we'll be covering it live and talking about the new direction that the SEC has taken. The TLDR for it is right now, stop, wait, nothing new. Probably going to reevaluate. And then after that, they're going to try to start working with the crypto industry as opposed to fighting the crypto industry. At the same time, though, they will still go after obvious bad actors. So there you go. By the way, yeah, Just Live is correct. Stop making stupid famous. You want to solve this issue? There you go. Boom. Done.
I mean, we are here right now talking about it. On the subject of things that we are right here right now talking about, I'm gonna fucking seize control, take this steering wheel, turn us to the fucking side, and take us right on into chat motherfucking shoutouts. Mrs. Producer, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and start shouting out these folks that have joined us. We've first got Mr. Hex Glenn with the Degens. What's up, amigo? Good to see you, Hex Glenn. I like your hat, by the way. The white pulse chain, or the black and white with the colored in pulse chain logo. Very classy. I like it. Next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Danny Boy saying, nope, inflation, not APR. Very different. You're correct about that. Inflation and APR are very, very different. And that goes back to when we were talking about Hex and stuff. Good point there, Mr. Danny
Thank you
Boy.
for the input as well. It was much appreciated.
Yep. After that, we've got Chad Donnerschwanz. Hello, fellow sports ball disrespecters. Good to see you, Chad Donnerschwanz. Welcome to the chats. We do.
By the way, do have a small update on Super Bowl.
Oh, yes.
In a rare turn of events, Jim Cramer was correct for once. Philadelphia Eagles 40, Kansas City Chiefs 22. There we go. Love to see it. Love to see it.
This is unusual. Jim, is it over?
Oh yeah, it's over.
Okay. All right. So Jim Cramer has beaten the odds, ladies and gentlemen. And
Jim Cramer beat his own odds. Yes.
What a strategic, what an unexpected turn of events. Maybe he places all of his money on sports bets instead of in the stock market or the crypto market. Who knows? But that's super fun. All right. So next we got in the chat shoutouts, we got Orizio Evitagen. Man, I don't know.
Don't even try it. Don't even try to say it.
We got this guy over here. I'm normally pretty good with like foreign languages, but I don't even know what the hell this is. All right, I'm just kind of gonna call you Orez. Sup, fuckers? What's up to you two, bro? Good to see you, Mr. Orez. After that, we've got our favorite Jemmy. Amen, Will. Thank you, Jemmy. I appreciate the kind words. I believe that was to my my spiel about expectations and agreements.
Don't expect anything. What was it? Yeah. Any expectation you have is just a future resentment? Was that your
expectation? Line? Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments, and that's not mine. I don't know where I got that from, but somebody smarter than me out there has it. So the way I figure it is, if you're saying like obvious quotes or something that clearly comes from some smart person, you don't have to bother knowing where it came from. But just like, yeah, that's definitely not mine, guys. I just regurgitate smart things that people say. All right, so next up we got OBX Reapers, obstacle reapers. I don't know. Fine tuning them levers. Levers. Okay, that's what I thought. Fine tuning them levers. I was like, levers. Who's leaving? I don't know. But we are definitely fine tuning the levers. We are.
I think he's talking. This comment was in reference to Richard Hart making some changes. He's fine tuning the ecosystem, which I can understand the argument. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That would be my guess as well. Is before the car starts driving down the drag strip, we have to make sure that the engine's in order. And we tune all the good stuff. Next up in chat shoutouts, we've got Dr. H, the crypto practor, another fellow awesome doctor. What's up, Doc? Hey, Degens, how the fuck are you all? Things remain interesting in the ecosystem. Who's pulled their liquidity? Can someone explain why it's a thing to do in a current situation? Well, Dr. H, the long and short of it is, sometimes people are incentivized to do certain behavior. Sometimes that incentive goes away. So like if you look at the incentive of the APRs in the liquidity pools, they went plummeting down. So people not wanting impermanent loss decided, hey, I'm not going to put my liquidity in these farms that are now doing trash for returning things. So I know I pulled all my liquidity. So I don't know what you guys are doing. You guys are free to do it. I might be making the wrong decision. I might be making the right decision, but I certainly don't have any liquidity left in the farms on Pulse X. So that's where I'm sitting. Next up, we've got Hedgehound. We should watch an old video of Bitcoin Maxi Richard Hart. Rips, meme coins, and Ethereum. Yes, you guys should watch all of Richard Hart's videos. He is he's an interesting character with lots of excellent things to say. So yeah, like I can talk all day long about like, hey, you guys should not smoke. You guys should not drink alcohol. Y'all shouldn't go and fucking do leverage. but I'm free to open up a bar. I'm free to open up a hookah place, and I'm free to open up a casino because I know that people are going to go there and spend their delicious, delicious money, and it's going to go into my pockets. So like, you can say don't do a thing and give people the tools to do the thing at the same time. And you empower the people that listen, and you empower the people that don't listen. That's like the general idea that I get with it. I tell people all the time, like, hey, don't do bad stuff. And I will give you the tools to do bad stuff if you want to. You know, I will enable you. I'll give you sovereignty. I'll give you freedom. I will help you make your own decisions, whatever you choose your decisions to be. I might not agree with them, but I'll stand right there and I'll give you the stuff you need to get it done. So that's my 2 cents on that whole thing. Thank you so much to all of you guys who have hung out in the chats and interacted with us on this fantastic episode 70 of the Degen Roundtable flagship Sunday show. Before we go, Orez is -0. It's backwards. Excellent. Well, that's good to know. Just Live is -0. It's backwards. All right. So here's something. Here's a quick little marketing piece of not financial or marketing advice. But if people don't know how to pronounce your name, then they can't pronounce it right. So if I say, hey guys, my name is Will, or if I say, hey guys, my name is fucking Prison Colonesinine Chuzal, or something like that, like one is going to be very easy, one is going to be very difficult. So the better you can make, the easier you can make decisions for people to go along with the thing that you want them to do, the more they're going to do it, right? So just keep that in mind in terms of sales, in terms of marketing. If I name my website like Clorkfinox or something versus if I name my website Bigger, Better Dinner Plate, one of those things is very easy to remember and spell. And one of those things is like, what the fuck is this? You know? So just from a marketing perspective, you guys are free to do whatever you want. But that's just my 2 cents on all that good stuff. We've got one more joining the chats right now, Mr. Psycho Crypto 023, and it's good to see you, amigo. All right, so that's enough for that for chat shoutouts. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, thank you for joining us tonight. Before we go, Mr. Zenith, Mr. Agent J, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future? Mr. Zenith, ready, set, go. I'll post your links while you're talking, by the way.
Much appreciated. Folks, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter, now known as X, at ZenithDI. I post a lot of stuff there regarding to the legal updates and everything else going Pulse Chain. I also had a fun meme that I reposted today where someone says that a McChicken has actually appreciated more than the S&P 500. It used to be $1. It's now $5.39 in certain places. So I reposted it and said, we used to be a society. Damn sure.
Invest in McChickens.
There you go. Well, at least price point. Outside of that, folks, we got a Wednesday show coming up. I believe we have Mr. Shillgates coming up this week. We're very, very excited to hang out with him again. No?
The following week, I believe. I think if I'm not mistaken, Nate's doing a show. I'm not gonna be there for this 12th. But I
19th.
I want to say, yeah. So Mr. Shillgates is going to be doing a show on the 19th with Brendan and a couple other of us. Brendan is the one that is organizing this show, so I'd be happy to host it. And I don't know who we all got on the panel, but I know that we're working that on our angle from the Degen Roundtable. So we're excited to have Mr. Shillgates. If you're watching, broski, it's going to be a good time. I look forward to it.
True.
Continue, Zenith, if you don't mind.
Outside of that, next Friday, which is Valentine's Day, I believe, if we're still doing book club, which I assume that we are, we should be doing Pirate Money. It's actually it's a shorter book, which is nice. It's about 4 hours and 20 minutes, but it is a fun little thought experiment into the idea of allowing the states to actually mint their own currency that is backed by gold and silver in a reserve, and then you pretty much just transact with it, and it's kind of going back to a gold-backed system. It's a quick, easy read. I think it's very interesting. It has, I'll put it this way. I think it is the shorter, more modern version of, oh gosh, what was the book?
Debt?
The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's similar vein, similar vibe, talking about how we can fix kind of like the monetary system, good examples of things that exist currently. So overall, fun little read. Definitely recommend it. And it actually calls out its references and sources, which some of them are the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which, as a constitutional scholar, an aspiring one anyways, myself, I greatly appreciate it. And it actually gives some practical cases for it. Outside of that, though, yes, we'll be back next Sunday with episode 71 or 72, depending on how you count it, with me and Jay doing our episode 69.420, which turned into live Market Watch. But that was a fun episode. Outside of that, though, mentioned it earlier. Tomorrow on Walk the Block, Jay and I and Tracker and Dace, we're going to be covering the new direction that the SEC has taken. We're going to be breaking down the letter, talking about the markets, seeing everything going on. That's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time over on Walk the Block, Navigating Digital Finance. So please, really appreciate it if you give us a like, give us a subscribe, go check out the Twitter, go check out the website. That's what we're up to. We're trying to make some good, professional, curated content that you can share with your grandma, and then also share with somebody like Fast Abdul to keep them both interested and intrigued with the crypto happenings. That is all I got, though. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, by the way. If you want to keep this conversation going and you enjoyed all the stuff that we talked about here tonight, please scan the QR code, get in the Telegram, hit me up with an @ tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm right, tell me I'm just crying over nothing here. But either way, this is the kind of stuff this is the great conversation that we like to keep going, and the kind of topics we like to talk about with you guys, because I do think we have a fantastic community. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. Really appreciate it. Jay, what you got, buddy?
Not much that hasn't already been said. You can find me on Instagram at agent_J Schroth, on X at _P90Hex. But more importantly, you could find me by scanning that QR code, jumping into the Telegram chat, because that's where you will find a thriving community full of like-minded people who lean on each other to learn from each other, to further their financial education, and at the end of the day, hopefully achieve some modicum of financial freedom for ourselves, the rest of the community, and for our families, right? So like the damn video, comment, subscribe, scan that QR code, jump into Telegram chat. We do thank you for spending some of this time here with us this wonderful Sunday evening. We know that time is your most valuable asset. So we do appreciate that you spent some of that time here with us. Until next time, Will, take us out.
Alrighty, for the folks at home who do not know where you can find any of my socials, I'm Super Duper Docs. You guys can find me on all of the platforms. My name is Will Stevenson. You can find me everywhere. All of my stuff is linked at that domain that Mrs. Producer just brought up, will.pls.fyi. It will take you to my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Telegram, my little link tree that I don't know if it still exists because I stopped paying for it. So we'll fucking see what goes on there. But the Pulse domain will be up for a long time. I bought that 4-letter Pulse domain, and I'm quite pleased that I was able to get that before anyone else became will.pls.fyi. As far as stuff we've got going on in the near future, I'm not going to be here for this Wednesday show. I'm going to be traveling around. I'm headed up to the great state of Washington from down here in Texas, starting at some point next week. I don't know exactly when, but I'm going to be doing a road trip with a good friend of mine, and we're going to be rocking and rolling on up to the great Pacific Northwest. So you guys can look forward to that from me. If you're a Hexican and you want to meet other Hexicans on the subject, I love meeting people in real life and doing all that other stuff. But what you guys need to do, if you're a Hexican and want to meet other Hexicans, is go to bit.ly/hex_meetup. And that will take you to a little Telegram room that I created where you guys can post about all the cool, awesome things that you're doing. And you can tell other people like, hey, I'm going out to this little hole-in-the-wall bar in middle of bumfuck nowhere, Kansas City. Or like, hey, guys, I'm going skiing over in Seattle. Or maybe not Seattle, maybe on like Mount Rainier, not in the city itself. But you guys get the idea. Or like, hey, I'm going to go blow up some shit in the deserts of Nevada. Like, come on, guys, let's go hang out and have some fun. Or you can just go grab coffee in some, I don't know, New Jersey suburb somewhere. The point is, like, this is a place for Hexicans to go and meet other Hexicans, or like just fucking crypto people to meet other crypto people. I call it the Hex Meetup Chat because I'm a Hexican and I love Hexicans. So you guys everybody is welcome. You don't have to be a Hexican, but just go and meet other people, go make friends, go be a good person, go like hang out, go throw axes, go learn how to do Taekwondo, go do whatever, go on a hike, doesn't matter. Go meet people, go have fun. That's the point of the whole thing. So again, it is bit.ly/hex_meetup. You can also do t.me/hex_meetup. Same fucking thing, but the bit.ly takes you exactly to the start here page, which will explain to you how to use the Telegram to your best advantage. Other than that, things I've got going on in the near future, I'm traveling, like I said. So for those of you guys that are in between Texas and Washington, you'll see me rolling through here pretty soon. If you want me to swing by and say hi, drop me a message on Telegram, which again, you can reach by reaching out to me at will.pls.fyi. And then I'll be up there. And then the next move that I'm going to be making is from Washington down to Las Vegas for the Pulse Chain 369 tour. So for those of you guys that don't know, Pulse Chain is doing a March 6th through 9th tour down in Las Vegas. If you haven't already got your tickets, I don't know if it's not too late, but it might be pretty damn close. So let me see if I can grab the link for that thing. I'm sure that I have it here. Look at that. www. Oh, son of a bitch. I have my my tab here pulled up off the side of the screen so I can read the end of show copywriting, and it has failed me in terms of dropping this link. But for those of you guys that are looking to join the Pulse Chain Tour, it is pulsechaintour.com/events/pulse-369-conference. And that's how you get it. You guys can still use promo code Degen for 10% off. Mrs. Producer, when we go to close out the show, if you wouldn't mind playing for the folks at home our very fantastic commercial that Mr. Zenith made before doing the closeout video, that would be absolutely fantastic. And if we've gotten rid of it, that's perfectly fine as well. But that would be super cool to have that rocking and rolling. So again, guys, remember, get your Pulse Chain Tour conference tickets. The hotel premium or the hotel discount is no longer live, but you guys can still get tickets to the conference, and it'll be a good time. Other than that, look forward to our flagship show. Look forward to whatever Nate's got cooking up for this Wednesday, and we got book club on Friday. And that is all that I've got going on. That's all the Degen Roundtable's got going on. And so now it's time for the end of show copywriting. So I'm going to read our Degen Roundtable preamble to the Degen Roundtable Constitution, which I still haven't written yet, before I do the end of show copywriting. So here we go. We, the debauched, in the pursuit of chaotic and anime-enjoying harmony, unite to form a more questionable union and establish strictly unregulated fun to ensure a steady flow of libations and provide for our collective shenanigans, all while promoting the art of bad decision makings and securing the blessings of free-spirited vibes to both ourselves and future party animals, do hereby establish this glorious podcast aimed at indulgence and excess for all who dare to live recklessly. Will you join us? And turn down for what? I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent J often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable. Mrs. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pulse Chain Tour Masters Golf Tournament 2024. Zenith is making his approach to the green on this sudden death playoff between himself and Reginald Gerald III, who already completed his putt for birdie. Zenith needs to make this putt right here in order for his dreams of winning that jacket to stay alive. Let's see what he does. Oh! Oh, he flubbed it! He missed! He whiffed! He's a loser! Loser! I repeat, RG3 wins! RG3 wins! Don't make mistakes like that guy. Get ready early for Pulse Chain Tour Las Vegas 2025, including the Pulse Masters Golf Tournament from March 6th through the 9th. Sign up early and use the code DGEN at checkout before September 1st to get 36.9% off all of your tickets. Don't miss out on all the fun from the star-studded conferences, golf tournament, and nightly events in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada with all of your friends and favorite Pulse and Hex creators. We cannot wait to see you in Vegas, so until then, DGen responsibly.